Chapter 1160. The Vengeful Spirit in the Blood-Red Mist 3. After that, they greeted Ning Xiao and made all the necessary arrangements, then headed straight for the waterfall. When they arrived at the waterfall, Lung Ruoxue realized that the people her godfather had sent had already set up the tent. They must have planned to keep watch there. When she saw this, her heart was filled with warmth and she was moved beyond words. "Godfather, thank you very much," Lung Ruoxue said softly. "Silly girl, this is nothing. It's just a small matter." Master Ning said disapprovingly, but not everyone could enjoy such treatment. Lung Ruoxue nodded and didn't say anything else. She knew that there were some things that didn't need to be said out loud. She then summoned the Mei and the other spirit beasts to help her set up the tent. Master Ning then introduced Lung Ruoxue to his subordinates. At night, after Master Ning and the rest had gone to bed, Lung Ruoxue entered the bracelet and instructed Qingju to wake Fengde and the rest up. After Fengde and the rest woke up, Lung Ruoxue explained the situation to them. Everyone turned pale with fright. "Miss, what should we do?" Sueju worriedly tugged at Lung Ruoxue's arm. "Don't worry, they should be fine now. It's just that I can't really be at ease without finding their whereabouts." Lung Ruoxue spoke the truth. Knowing that they were fine was one thing, but whether or not she could be at ease was another. "Miss, what do you need us to do now?" Fengde asked calmly. He was very clear about Regiment Commander Ye's ability, so he wasn't very worried about their safety. However, he had the same thoughts as the Mississippi. He felt that they should find them as soon as possible. Otherwise, everyone's heart would be in suspense. "We need you to come out of your seclusion. We can leave this place at any time." This was also the main reason why she had asked Qingju to wake them up. Otherwise, when it was time to leave, she would not be able to explain it to Master Ning and the First Elder. "Then we'll exit seclusion early in the morning tomorrow," Fengde said. Then, everyone discussed what they would say after they came out of seclusion. After making arrangements, they returned to their rooms. The next morning, Lung Ruoxue then bade farewell to Master Ning's subordinates and returned to the inn. Please reading on Mibo X Novel. After that, he brought Fengde and his grandfather over. "Shuer, have they all come out of seclusion?" Master Ning and the Great Elder looked at the people in front of them and said in surprise. "Yes, I was the one who woke them up," Lung Ruoxue said. Hearing Lung Ruoxue's words, Master Ning and First Elder instantly understood. It seemed like this little girl was afraid that they would leave at any time, so she had to plan ahead. "Little girl, you've told them?" the First Elder said. "Yes." Lung Ruoxue nodded, but she couldn't help but sigh in her heart. It wasn't easy to bring them here. He had to put on a show for them, but he had no choice. "You don't have to worry too much. We've been sending people to look for him." Master Ning looked at the crowd and said, "We're not worried." Fengde and the others quickly said, and then set up the tent. After lunch, Lung Ruoxue stood by the pond alone. She looked at the calm water and was deep in thought. "Shuer, don't think too much about it. You should believe in Yechen's ability." Lung Ruhan walked over and consoled her. "Big brother, I'm not worried about their safety. It's just that I'm not sure if I can see them." Lung Ruoxue said softly. "Shuer." Lung Ruhan had just uttered 2 words when she noticed a small whirlpool in the center of the calm pool. Lung Ruoxue also noticed the situation and jumped into the pond without hesitation. Lung Ruhan saw this and followed suit. Not far away, Fengde and the rest noticed the abnormality and ran towards the pond. When Fengde and the others arrived at the edge of the pool, the originally imperceptible whirlpool became more and more obvious and bigger. They did not think and jumped into the water together. Seeing this, Master Ning and the First Elder had to follow them, so as not to lose these people again. Not long after, a huge wave rolled up from the pond, engulfing Lung Ruoxue and the others. Lung Ruoxue and the rest lost consciousness as well. When they woke up, they realized that they were in an unfamiliar place. "Where is this place?" Lung Ruoxue's beautiful eyes scanned the surroundings. When she realized that her own people were all around, she relaxed and started to observe this unfamiliar environment. As far as the eye could see, this place was full of trees and the environment was very quiet and peaceful. There were mountains and water, the climate was gentle, and the spiritual qi was very rich. It was a good place to live in seclusion. Miss, the environment here is not bad. Feng Die's eyes were wide open as he looked around curiously. Everyone, be careful and pay attention to your safety. Leng Ruoxua warned. Yes. Everyone responded in unison. Old man Ning, can you tell where we are? The great elder asked suspiciously. He had lived in the divinity for a long time, but he had never known that there was such a place in the divinity. It was truly unbelievable. No, I don't have any impression of this place. Master Ning shook his head, his handsome face full of question marks. Let's go over there and take a look. Leng Ruoxua pointed to a small green stone path not far away. This path was not wide, and both sides of the path were filled with trees. At most, 2 people could walk side by side. Furthermore, there was only one path in front of them. Hence, Leng Ruoxua guessed that this should be the entrance to somewhere, but she did not know what was inside. Yes. Everyone nodded. Since they had been brought here, they couldn't come for nothing. They had to figure out the situation here. Otherwise, wouldn't they have come for nothing? The situation inside is unclear. Everyone, please be careful. Leng Ruoxua reminded him worriedly. Then he walked toward the entrance of the small path. The first elder and Master Ning quickly followed by Feng De and the others. After Leng Ruoxua and the rest had walked for a while, they finally found a teleportation array at the end of the path. At this moment, the teleportation array was shining with an intimidating white light, proving that it could be used. Leng Ruoxua and the rest stood by the teleportation array, looking at each other. Chapter 1161. The Vengeful Spirit in the Blood-Red Mist 4. After some time, Leng Ruoxua stepped in. With a flash of white light, she disappeared. When the others saw this, they did not want to fall behind and also stepped in. With the continuous flash of white light, everyone disappeared in a moment. When Leng Ruoxua and the rest appeared on the other side of the teleportation array, they could not help but widen their eyes in disbelief. Compared to the beautiful scenery just now, this place was clearly a ruin. Not only that, the place was filled with a thick blood-red mist, and the air reeked of blood. Godfather, can you tell where we are? Leng Ruoxua asked cautiously. Swear, I don't have any impression of this place at all. However, this place looks like a battlefield no matter how I look at it. I'm sure many creatures have died here in the past. Otherwise, there wouldn't be such a strong blood qi here. After observing for a while, Master Ning cautiously said. Standing here, his mind was a little restless, which showed how heavy the murderous qi was. However, what made him curious was that Shui and the others didn't seem to have any abnormalities, which was really incredible. Yes. Leng Ruoxua nodded her head deep in thought. Shui, don't you feel restless? Master Ning couldn't help but ask. No, I just feel a little uncomfortable. Leng Ruoxua said honestly. You guys don't have any either? Master Ning asked Feng De and the others with wide eyes. No, I just feel that my breathing is a little rough. The air here isn't good. Feng De made an important conclusion that resonated with everyone. You're all freaks. All of you are abnormal. The Grand Elder was speechless. Even the deity emperors and hierarch experts felt their hearts trembling, but these little brats only had breathing difficulties. Woo. This was too unfair. How could this be? Feng De and the others were speechless. They just didn't feel restless, and that was abnormal? In their opinion, they didn't sense it because they were too weak. First Elder Godfather, let's discuss how to leave this place. Leng Ruoxua ignored the grudges of First Elder and the others as she reminded them. Little girl, are you sure you still want to go further in? The Great Elder asked. Yes. Leng Ruoxua nodded her head with certainty. This was because this was their only hope of finding the Demon Prince and Ling. It was not easy for her to be brought here by the huge wave. So how could she be willing to return empty-handed? Please reading on myboxnovl.com. Then this old man will risk my life to accompany you, little girl. However, the situation here is unclear, so you must not act rashly. First Elder warned. Yes, we will. Leng Ruoxua promised. Shui, follow behind me. I'll lead the way for you. Master Ning said. Thank you, Godfather. We're not that weak. We'll take care of ourselves. Lung Ruoxua chuckled helplessly. The two old men were treating them like children. That's good. Let's go. Master Ning and the Great Elder looked at each other and walked in front of the group. Master Ning's subordinates and Mo Yen were arranged to walk at the back, while Lung Ruoxua and the others walked in the middle, receiving their protection. After walking for a while in the blood-colored fog, Lung Ruoxua and the rest suddenly realized that there were countless light spots floating towards them. When the light spots got closer, they realized that they weren't light spots at all. Instead, they were humans and beasts. However, these humans and beasts were all transparent, and their eyes were still shining with a green light. Swear they are all vengeful spirits. Be careful not to be possessed by them. Master Ning had a headache when he saw the vengeful spirits surrounding them. There were at least 1,000 vengeful spirits, which was several times more than their number. Moreover, vengeful spirits were very difficult to deal with, and it was even more difficult to kill them. Seeing these vengeful spirits, Master Ning didn't know what to say. However, he didn't expect that there would be so many vengeful spirits here. No wonder the fog here was blood-red. Vengeful spirits were extremely annoying creatures, and were difficult to eliminate. Vengeful spirits were mainly formed by the vengeful aura of humans or beasts after they died. Vengeful spirits were neither humans nor ghosts, and were not tolerated in all realms. However, they were allowed to exist by the rules of heaven and earth. Therefore, anyone who encountered vengeful spirits would have a headache. However, they did not expect to encounter so many of them at once. It was difficult to exterminate even one vengeful spirit, let alone so many of them. Wasn't he trying to tire them to death? Master Ning couldn't help but complain in his heart. Little girl, old man Ning and I will hold them off for a while. You take these little guys and quickly return the way you came. The first elder chimed in. In his opinion, letting Lung Ruoxua and the others deal with these vengeful spirits was no different from sending them delicious food. Hence, he could not let the little girl and the others take the risk. Great Elder, there's a saying that goes, we should share good fortune and misfortune together. At this moment, how can we abandon you and live alone? Lung Ruoxua shook her head in disagreement. Chapter 1162. The Immortal Slaying Man 1. That's right. We're not leaving. Fonda and the others quickly nodded. Little girl, these vengeful spirits aren't easy to deal with. You're too weak, so you won't be of much help even if you stay here. If you're possessed by these vengeful spirits, the consequences will be unimaginable. The Great Elder advised earnestly. Although he was pleased with the words of the little girl and the others, he could not let them stay here out of his love for them. Great Elder Godfather, there are so many vengeful spirits here. Let's not talk about whether we can escape or not. Even if we can, you can't possibly deal with all of them. If there were only a few vengeful spirits, they could leave if they were told to. However, there were at least 1,000 vengeful spirits here. If they really left, Godfather and Great Elder would have a hard time dealing with them no matter how high their cultivation was. This, Lung Ruoxua's words left First Elder and Master Ning speechless. They knew very well that this little girl was right. There were too many vengeful spirits here, and they were not able to deal with them. They had chased Lung Ruoxua and the others away only because they wanted to help them block the attack, and give them a chance to escape. After all, they were still young. Godfather, Great Elder, we appreciate your good intentions, but we can't leave. Lung Ruoxua was touched. Even though she had not known these people for a long time, the fact that they had done so much for her and her group meant that she had already completely acknowledged them. Swear you won't be of much help here. Master Ning said a little anxiously. Seeing those vengeful spirits getting closer and closer, and staring at them like a tiger watching its prey, he was very anxious. Godfather, how can you look down on us? Lung Ruoxua pretended to be displeased as she pouted her pink lips. Actually, after seeing these vengeful spirits, she had already asked Qingju to find a way to deal with them. You guys are still young. Master Ning said helplessly. This wasn't the time to discuss this. Sister, I found it. At this moment, Qingju's voice rang out in Lung Ruoxua's mind. Is there any way? Lung Ruoxua asked in surprise. Sister, There's only one way to eliminate the vengeful spirit in this world. And that's to purify it. To put it bluntly, it's to burn it. However, the flame that can kill the vengeful spirit is not an ordinary flame. There are only two kinds of flames in the world that can kill the vengeful spirit. One is the divine fire of the underworld, and the other is the divine fire of chaos. Both of these divine fires were born from the heaven and earth, and can be called the kings of fire. Their ranks are even higher than the fire spirit. Qingju explained. Qingju, does this mean that we won't be able to deal with these vengeful spirits? This was the first time she had heard of the flame that Qingju had mentioned. She had no idea where to find it. Furthermore, she did not have the time to look for it now. Sister, don't count on the netherworld divine fire. It's impossible for the divine realm to have it. I can find it. Qingju smiled mysteriously and kept her in suspense. Where are we going to find it? Lung Ruoxia asked hurriedly. Sister, when you reach the 9th level of the heaven-defying art, your natal flame will evolve into a chaos divine flame. Qingju said honestly. Please reading on MyBoX and OVL, calm stupid Qingju, what do we do now? Lung Ruoxia said helplessly. She was asking about now. However, she was surprised that her flame could evolve into a chaos divine flame. Sister, although your flame hasn't reached the level of chaotic divine flame yet, these vengeful spirits aren't very strong. It's more than enough to deal with them. Qingju said. Are you sure? Lung Ruoxia asked worriedly. Unless she had no other choice, she was not willing to enter the bracelet at the first sign of danger. Yes. Qingju nodded. Sister, as the king of fire, I can tell you with absolute certainty that your natal flames can deal with these vengeful spirits. Suddenly, the fire spirit's voice rang in Lung Ruoxia's mind. Little fire spirit, you're awake? Lung Ruoxia said happily. When they left the floating cloud city, the little fire spirit had temporarily gone into closed-door cultivation. It had just broken through and needed to go into closed-door cultivation to digest what it had obtained from the breakthrough. At the same time, it needed to sort out its inherited memories. However, she didn't expect the little fire spirit to wake up so quickly. Yes, sister. Vengeful spirits are most afraid of fire. However, ordinary flames can't deal with them. Even I have some difficulty dealing with high-level vengeful spirits. However, these vengeful spirits aren't very strong. Your natal flames will definitely have no problem dealing with them. The fire spirit said in an extremely serious manner. After coming out of seclusion this time, he was keenly aware that his sister's flames had become stronger, and there was a faint trace of pressure in the flames, causing him, the king of fire, to feel pressured. However, after pondering for a while, he saw that his sister's natal flame was different from the rest. That was because the flame was the chaos divine flame that had not advanced completely. He could not help but feel surprised. One must know that the chaos divine flame was of a much higher level than his. What was even more unbelievable was that the chaos divine flame was actually his sister's natal divine flame. This was simply too outrageous and he could not understand it no matter how hard he tried. Thank you, little fire spirit. With Green Vessel and the little fire spirit's words, Lung Ruoxia felt much more at ease. Since her flames were able to deal with these vengeful spirits, there was nothing to be afraid of. Godfather, Great Elder, I have a way to deal with these vengeful spirits. Lung Ruoxia cut off the connection with Green Vessel and the little fire spirit, then turned around and said to them, Little girl, you really have a way? The first elder asked in surprise. Shui, or you don't have to comfort us. Vengeful spirits have been difficult to deal with since ancient times. Master Ning also reminded him. He didn't want his precious goddaughter to die here. Godfather, Great Elder, I won't show off. You have to believe me. Lung Ruoxia was helpless. Did she look that untrustworthy? Miss, we believe you. The moment Lung Ruoxia's words fell, Fengda and the rest immediately supported her. Master Ning and the Great Elder didn't know what to say, and they couldn't help but think in their hearts. These people's trust in Shui had reached an unparalleled height, and they were far behind. Chapter 1163. The Immortal slaying man too. In order to prove that her words were true, Lung Ruoxua no longer tried to convince them. Instead, she used her actions to prove it. There was a small flame dancing on her fair fingertips. The flame was not even as big as a baby's little finger, but the temperature was frighteningly high. Fengde and the others saw this and immediately distanced themselves from her to avoid being roasted by the flame. The temperature of this flame is so high. Master Ning and the Great Elder wiped the sweat off their foreheads and kept a distance from Lung Ruoxua. Little girl, is this your life flame? The first elder asked in surprise. This was the first time he had seen Lung Ruoxia's flames. He did not expect this little girl to have such a hidden hand. He couldn't help but think to himself. However, what he didn't know was that Lung Ruoxua had more than one trick up her sleeve. Well, I need fire to destroy these vengeful spirits. My fire should be able to deal with them, right? Lung Ruoxua asked with a smile. No problem, the Grand Elder said hurriedly. If the flames with such high temperatures were still unable to deal with the vengeful spirit, then their flames could commit suicide by banging their heads against the wall. Then we can stay, right? Lung Ruoxua asked again. Yes. Master Ning nodded as well. Seeing Lung Ruoxia's flames, he thought that perhaps Shui was the most suitable person to deal with these vengeful spirits. It seemed that he was really old. He was actually feeling emotional. Great Elder Godfather, you two work with me to gather all these vengeful spirits together. I'll set fire to destroy them. Lung Ruoxua said after some thought. Alright, you guys stay here to protect Fengde and the others. Leave these vengeful spirits to us. Master Ning replied, and then ordered his subordinates. Unless you have a flame like the little girl's, you must listen to our arrangements. Afraid that Fengde and the others would refuse, First Elder quickly added. Well, stay here obediently. Fengde quickly expressed his position on behalf of the others, but he couldn't help but feel disgusted in his heart. They were overconfident and liked to show off. That's good. Little girl, let's begin. The First Elder looked at Lung Ruoxua and said. Then, he was the first to charge at the vengeful spirit. Seeing that the First Elder had taken the lead, Master Ning also rushed out, not to be outdone, and Mo Yen followed closely behind. When Lung Ruoxua saw the vengeful spirits being gathered by the three elders, she quickly executed the fire dragon dance and infused her natal divine flame into it. In an instant, everyone saw a blazing fire dragon flying towards the vengeful spirits. Please reading on MyBoX Novel. Following Lung Ruoxia's rank advancement, the might of the fire dragon's dance had also increased. The fire dragon's dance that was infused with her natal flames seemed to have been infused with a soul. It became more vivid and human-like. The fire dragon danced in the sky above the vengeful spirits, then slowly descended, wrapping countless vengeful spirits in its own flames. Suddenly, a series of painful wails came from the flames. After a short while, the vengeful spirits that were surrounded by the fire dragons disappeared from this world. Seeing this, the First Elder, Master Ning, and Mo Yen were even more motivated. More vengeful spirits were driven together by them, and the fire dragon waiting quietly at the side was responsible for purifying them. The cooperation between the two sides was seamless. After a long time, the vengeful spirits around them had finally been purified. However, before they could celebrate, an angry roar entered their ears. Who killed my children? I want you to pay with your lives. The roar came from far away, and there was a pressure in the voice causing Fengde and the others to feel a little breathless. A vengeful spirit that can talk, the Great Elder's expression changed. He only managed to finish half of his sentence before his heart sank, and he could not continue. King of vengeful spirits. Master Ning's face was also very ugly. He had never dreamed that he would encounter a king of vengeful spirits here. Generally speaking, vengeful spirits were not of a high level, and most of them did not have spiritual wisdom, only acting on instinct. Even so, vengeful spirits were not easy to destroy, unless everyone had a life flame like Shui. Otherwise, if they could not escape, they could only wait to become the food of vengeful spirits. However, this king of vengeful spirits was completely different. They had spiritual intelligence, and their intelligence was not lower than that of humans. They were also very strong. If one wanted to destroy them, Flames alone were not enough. Just as Master Ning was feeling depressed, the king of vengeful spirits had already arrived in front of them. It was in the form of a beast, with a huge body and an extremely ugly appearance. It had the characteristics of countless beasts. Not only was its head full of horns, but there were also many pairs of eyes on its head. Dark green mucus dripped from its body, and it emitted an unpleasant smell. Lung Ruoxue and the others almost vomited when they saw it. What the hell is this? It looks so disgusting. Feng De and the others covered their noses and mouths, and couldn't help but complain. You guys are the disgusting ones. I'm the great king of vengeful spirits, and you dare to insult me and kill all my children? I won't let you off. You're dead today, haha. It's been a long time since I've tasted such a delicious soul. The king of vengeful spirits laughed heartily, drooling nonstop from its mouth. Swear this is going to be troublesome. This is actually a king of vengeful spirits with the strength of a deity emperor. I wonder if your flames can deal with it. In a while, this old thing and I will keep it busy while you find an opportunity to purify it with flames. Otherwise, if he doesn't die, we'll be the ones to die. Master Ning whispered to Lung Ruoxue with a serious face. Yes. Lung Ruoxue nodded her head, her beautiful eyes staring at the vengeful spirit king with vigilance. Stinky old man, I don't want to die with you, so don't drag me down. Master Ning reminded the great elder with a wicked smile. You old thing, I don't want to die with you either. Don't be lazy. The great elder replied, unwilling to be outdone. Their eyes met in midair, and countless sparks flew. With that, the two of them prepared to charge forward together. However, they were stopped by Lung Ruoxue. Godfather, great elder, please wait a moment. I have some questions for him. Lung Ruoxue said softly. I don't think it will tell you the truth. Master Ning said with certainty. The vengeful spirit king had intelligence and was born from vengeful energy. It was more cunning than humans, so how could it answer Lung Ruoxue's question honestly? Chapter 1164. The Immortal Slaying Man 3. It's okay, I'm just asking. Lung Ruoxue said softly. After she finished speaking, she turned her gaze towards the vengeful spirit king, who had also treated them as prey and was staring at them intently. Vengeful spirit king, how long have you been here? Lung Ruoxue asked with a smile. Why should I tell you? The king of vengeful spirits asked instead of answering. There's no reason. I'm just curious. However, I don't think you remember. After all, you're just a vengeful spirit. It didn't know how to count, so it couldn't be considered a real soul. How would I remember all this? Lung Ruoxue said with a look of understanding and a hint of disdain. Who said I don't know how to count? Who said I don't remember? This king has been here for almost 1,000,000 years. Human, you're underestimating this king. The king of vengeful spirits roared in anger. That long? Then why are you still so weak? Lung Ruoxue was confused. How is my strength low? This king doesn't need to waste any effort to deal with you. The king of vengeful spirits was infuriated. It glared at Lung Ruoxue and roared. Low in every aspect. Not only is your strength low, but you're also ugly. You've cultivated for 1,000,000 years, but you've never made a breakthrough? Why didn't you make yourself look better? Lung Ruoxue was confused. Damn human, what do you know? I'm the most handsome one among the vengeful spirits. You're the ugly one. Not only is he ugly, but he also has no taste and is not aesthetically pleasing. The king of vengeful spirits retorted unceremoniously, cursing in its heart. An ugly monster actually dared to look down on it. It was really unreasonable. King of vengeful spirits, who told you about vengeful spirits? You may be handsome among vengeful spirits, but you don't fit the aesthetic standards of us humans. In the eyes of us humans, you're ugly. So you'd better accept this reality. Good girl. Change into a better-looking one, so that we won't have nightmares at night. Lung Ruoxue chuckled in a calm manner. However, it was impossible for her not to feel depressed after being called ugly, blind, and unscrupulous by a vengeful spirit. As the first elder, Master Ning, and the others listened to Lung Ruoxue and the king of vengeful spirits' verbal battle, they could not help but feel speechless. They thought to themselves, this little girl is really too strong. She can even chat with vengeful spirits and even start bickering. However, in comparison, Fonda and the others were very calm. In their hearts, what was the point of their mischatting with the king of vengeful spirits? If it wasn't for the fact that this king of vengeful spirits was so ugly and disgusting, they might have even encouraged the young lady to form a contract with it. Human, you're dead. The king of vengeful spirits gritted its teeth after hearing Lung Ruoxia's words. What's wrong? He flew into a rage out of humiliation. Vengeful Spirit King, you still need to train. How can you get angry so easily? Lung Ruoxia laughed evilly. You. The king of vengeful spirits was so angry that it couldn't speak. Its huge body trembled in anger, and the mucus on its body dripped to the ground, burning black holes in the ground in the blink of an eye. Please reading on Mibo X Novel. Calm Vengeful Spirit King. You're too restless. Seeing the vengeful Spirit King's anger, Lung Ruoxia ridiculed it. By the way, have you seen any other humans before us? Seeing that the king of vengeful spirits was so angry that it ignored her, Lung Ruoxia changed the topic and asked another question. This question was actually what she really wanted to ask. So what if I've seen him? The king of vengeful spirits did not doubt that he had his own way. What kind of person? Lung Ruoxia probed. There wasn't a single trace of abnormality on her beautiful face. Actually, she was extremely nervous, but she couldn't let the vengeful spirit king notice anything amiss. It was a man. The king of vengeful spirits said in an unpleasant tone. Only one man? Lung Ruoxia continued asking. I only saw a man. Wait. Why do I have to answer you? The king of vengeful spirits had only said one sentence before it reacted, and was no longer willing to cooperate with Lung Ruoxia. You have to do your best as a host. This is your territory and we're your guests. So, out of courtesy, you have to answer my question honestly. Lung Ruoxia replied matter-of-factly. Her words stunned the vengeful spirit king. It had never heard of such a statement before. You are my food. I will not answer any more questions from you. The king of vengeful spirits glared at Lung Ruoxia. Vengeful Spirit King, you can't be so ungentlemanly, you know? Tell me, where is that man now? Lung Ruoxia pretended to reprimand him as she asked. Dead. I ate that man. The king of vengeful spirits said with a fierce look in its eyes. You ate it? Lung Ruoxia squinted her beautiful eyes. Even though she did not believe the vengeful spirit king's words, the anger in her heart still burned uncontrollably after hearing its words. Of course, all the people and beasts that come to my territory are my food. If I don't eat them, do you think I'll keep them? The king of vengeful spirits asked. That makes sense. Since that's the case, you can die too. Lung Ruoxia said coldly. She then directed her fire dragon and flew towards the vengeful spirit king. Seeing this, First Elder, Master Ning, and Mo Yin also quickly attacked. At the same time, in another secret place, two extremely handsome men were staring at the light screen in front of them, observing every move inside. Of the two men, one was as handsome and elegant as a banished immortal, while the other was as terrifying as a demon. Although the two men had slightly different styles, they were both at the level of a troublemaker that could make women go crazy. However, the banished immortal man's handsome face always had a faint smile, while the other man's face was as cold as ice. The immortal slaying man sat down on a stone chair not far away from them, and poured himself a cup of tea. Then he called out to another man. Come over and have some tea. You've been looking at it for a long time. What exactly do you want to do? The cold man asked with a straight face. The anger in his heart was uncontrollable. He scurried upwards. At this moment, he really wanted to strangle this seemingly relaxed man in front of him. What do you think? The immortal execution man laughed as he ignored the cold intent that was being emitted from the other party's body. You're courting death. The frosty-looking man said coldly. Chapter 1165. The Immortal Slaying Man 4. How can you accuse me? I'm doing this for their own good. The immortal execution man's face was filled with grievance as tears continuously flickered in his beautiful eyes. Don't pretend to be pitiful in front of me, unless you want to die. the cold man said with a face full of disgust. He was so disgusted that all the hair on his body stood up. Don't you like to act pitiful like this? If you can, why can't I? The immortal execution man felt very wronged. Sob. This was clearly a difference in treatment. How could he treat him like this? You dare to compete with me? The icy cold man narrowed his eyes as he spoke in an unfriendly manner. How would I dare? But you can't bully me, or I'll tell on you. The immortal execution man warned shamelessly. The man opposite him was so angry that he gritted his teeth. You're getting more and more daring, even threatening me. The cold man sighed and said helplessly. However, the immortal execution man knew that this was a sign that the man in front of him was going to get angry. Therefore, he did not dare to play with fire. Otherwise, he would be the one in trouble. Don't scare me. I'm very timid, so I don't dare to threaten you. The immortal execution man said fearfully. Humph. I'll remember this. The cold-looking man squinted his eyes and said coldly. Then he turned his eyes back to the screen. It's obvious that you can't beat me now. The immortal slaying man couldn't help but mutter to himself. However, he couldn't unleash his full strength on the divine continent, so it was hard to say who would win between him and the man in front of him. Moreover, this man. Vengeful Spirit King. Why is there such a thing here? Seeing the disgusting creature that suddenly appeared on the screen, the cold man's eyes narrowed and his tone suddenly became cold. At this time, he could no longer control the anger in his heart. He grabbed the immortal execution man who was leisurely drinking tea in his hand and questioned him fiercely. Calm down, there's already one here. The immortal slaying man said honestly. Then he added in his heart, there's more than one. However, he didn't dare to say this now. The king of vengeful spirits wanted to eat him. If he really told the truth, it was hard to say whether he could live to see the sun tomorrow. For the sake of his life, he had better remain silent. Then why didn't I meet him? Speak. Is this your doing? The man, who was emitting a cold aura, questioned with a dark and handsome face. I'm innocent. You can't possibly think that I can control those vengeful spirits, right? If I had that ability, I would have left this place long ago. The immortal execution man defended himself with an aggrieved expression. Don't tell me that you don't have any friendship with those vengeful spirits. The cold man said in disbelief. Even if we are friends, I can't control them. We're neighbors who don't mind each other's business, that's all. The immortal execution man spoke the truth. He had paid a price for being able to live in peace with those vengeful spirits. Please reading on myboxnovel.com. What do we do now? The cold man asked with a cold face. Wait for them to destroy the vengeful spirit king. The immortal execution man said. Aren't you talking nonsense? The cold man said in an unpleasant tone. Do you have a good idea? The immortal execution man blinked his bright eyes and asked with a faint smile. If I had a way, would I need to ask you? The cold man roared in anger. I have no choice. I think we should trust them. Besides, even if we want to help, we have to be able to get out of here first. The immortal execution man reminded. This place wasn't a place where one could come and go as they pleased. Unfortunately, he didn't know about it at that time. Otherwise, he wouldn't have come here. After hearing the immortal slaying man's words, the cold-looking man didn't say anything else. Instead, he started to sulk. Actually, you don't have to worry too much. They'll be fine. The immortal slaying man said in an understanding manner. That little girl had many life-saving methods in her hands. Otherwise, how could he be so relaxed? Unfortunately, a certain someone's concern made him confused. However, he didn't dare to say this out loud. Otherwise, the petty man would definitely make things difficult for him after this. Keep a close eye on this place. If they lose a single hair, they'll hold you responsible. The cold man warned, then turned around and left. When the beautiful man heard the other party's words, he could only guard the light curtain without complaint, not daring to relax for a moment. Otherwise, he had no doubt that if something happened to these little guys, that savage man would definitely cut him into 8 pieces and throw him to some cold place to let him die. Just thinking about it was terrifying. Woo. Chapter 1166. The little fellow from the Ning family won. After the cold man left, he walked to the side of a road that led to the outside world. He stopped and looked at the road that seemed a little unsightly because this was a road that only allowed entry and not exit. Thinking of this, he could not help but feel anger in his heart. Black divine power slowly gathered in his palm. As more and more divine power gathered in his hand, he threw the ball of divine power toward the intersection. A bang was heard. The sound of a collision rang out, and the place they were at shook violently. The immortal slaying man who had heard the sound also ran over from the light barrier and said with a pale face, "Are you crazy? Quickly stop. I want to go out." The cold man's face was filled with anger. "But you can't force it. That formation can't be destroyed at all." The immortal execution man said speechlessly. There was a formation at the entrance of the road. They could only get out after the formation was broken. However, the two of them didn't seem to be proficient in formations, so they could only be trapped here. "How would you know if you don't try?" The cold man said, unwilling to give up. "I've tried. If it could be destroyed, I would have left long ago." The immortal slaying man said honestly, implying that he should not waste his energy. "At least with your current strength you can tee." The immortal execution man added. The cold man stared at the path for a long time. In the end, he could only helplessly return to the light screen. At the same time, Lung Ruoxue and the rest were already engaged in battle with the king of vengeful spirits. Master Ning, First Elder, and Mo Yen were in charge of distracting the king of vengeful spirits, while Lung Ruoxue was in charge of purifying it with her natal divine flame. The four of them worked together, and soon, the king of vengeful spirits was left with only a bunch of vengeful spirits. Don't kill me. Let me go. Wah! The king of vengeful spirits pleaded as black tears the size of a fist flowed out from the many eyes on its head. It looked extremely pitiful right now, but Lung Ruoxue and the rest would not pity a vengeful spirit. "Let you go? Stop dreaming, just like how you won't let us go when we're in your hands, and we naturally won't let you go." Lung Ruoxue laughed lightly. The flame on her fingertips flickered continuously, giving the king of vengeful spirits a huge amount of pressure. "Then what do I have to do for you to let me go?" The king of vengeful spirits asked. Although it was a vengeful spirit, it had the intelligence of a human. It knew very well that among these people, the only one who could hurt it was this human woman in front of it. Therefore, it naturally placed its hopes on her and negotiated with her. "I won't let a single vengeful spirit go," Lung Ruoxue said emotionlessly. Then, she took the baby out of the bracelet. Please reading on Mibo X Novel. Calm sister. The baby rubbed against Lung Ruoxue's chest like a spoiled child. "Baby, read its soul." Lung Ruoxue transmitted her voice and instructed. Previously, she had tried to use her mind-reading technique on the king of vengeful spirits, but she realized that it did not work. Furthermore, Baobao's current strength was not comparable to this vengeful spirit, so it would be difficult to search its soul. That was why she had summoned Baobao when she had beaten the king to the point where it was only left with a vengeful spirit. "Yes." Baby Sue nodded. Her large, bright eyes scanned the vengeful spirit king's almost transparent body like a searchlight. Not long after, she came to a conclusion and gave Lung Ruoxue a look. Lung Ruoxue understood and threw the flames in her hands onto the vengeful spirit king. Ah! With a painful howl, the vengeful spirit king disappeared from the world forever. As soon as it disappeared, the blood-red mist around them faded a lot, revealing the tip of the iceberg. They also saw a teleportation array not far away. "Baby, how is it?" After dealing with the king of vengeful spirits, Lung Ruoxue was not in a hurry to leave. Instead, she asked about the results of baby's use investigation. "Big sister, the demon and Ling have indeed been here, but they have already left through the teleportation formation. The vengeful spirit king is also very timid. When the demon and Ling came, he was so scared that he didn't dare to show his face." Baobao covered her mouth and laughed secretly as she transmitted her voice. "Then why did it dare to show its face when we came? Do we look like we're easy to bully?" Lung Ruoxue asked in confusion. "Sister, I know from the memory of the king of vengeful spirits that the evildoer has killed many of its subordinates, but not all of them. We have caused it to become a general without an army, so it can't hide even if it wants to. Bao Bao explained. Moreover, sister, there's more than one vengeful spirit king here. If it doesn't dare to avenge its subordinates, I'm afraid it'll be laughed at by the other vengeful spirit kings. Bao Bao added. And there's more than one. Lung Ruoxua was depressed. One vengeful spirit king was already hard to deal with. If there were more, wouldn't they be exhausted to death? Yes, although it's not over 100, it's almost there. Bao Bao said. What should he do then? Lung Ruoxua was in a difficult position. Although she really wanted to use the teleportation array to find the demon, she was afraid that Fengda and the rest would be hurt. She was also hesitating whether she should send Fengda and the rest into the bracelet. Swear, what's wrong? Master Ning could not help but ask when he saw Lung Ruoxia's conflicted expression. Godfather, although the vengeful spirit king is dead, there should be more here. So I'm thinking if we should continue moving forward. Lung Ruoxua spoke the truth. Even though she had acknowledged the position of the Grand Elder and Master Ning in her heart, it did not mean that she would let them know of the universal bangle's existence now. After all, they were not alone, and the bangle was of great importance. Therefore, before she had absolute power, it was not appropriate for her to let the people of the firmament know of its existence. What? More than one? How did this happen? Master Ning's expression changed when he heard Lung Ruoxia's words. If it wasn't for Shui, it wouldn't have been easy for them to deal with the vengeful spirit king. However, they could deal with one vengeful spirit king, but if there were too many of them, they would probably be helpless. I'm dead tired. This should be the place where vengeful spirits are sealed. They've stayed here for at least millions of years, so naturally, there are many vengeful spirit kings. What we have to decide now is whether we should continue moving forward. There may be a lot of danger waiting for us ahead. Lung Ruoxua said honestly. Chapter 1167. The little fellow of the Ning family too. Miss, is guild leader Yi in front? Fengda asked the most crucial question. He was very clear about the young Miss' ability, so he didn't doubt the truth of Lung Ruoxia's words. Yes, Lung Ruoxua nodded her head. This was also what she was struggling with. Then let's continue forward. Isn't it just the king of vengeful spirits? With young Miss here, there's nothing to be afraid of. Fengda said disapprovingly. His words made Lung Ruoxua break out in cold sweat. Wasn't Fengda and the others a little blind in their trust in him? Miss, what is the king of vengeful spirits? We have so many people, and Commander Yi is alone. If there are many vengeful spirit kings, won't he be in more danger than us? Lin Yuan analyzed. Yup. Lin Yuan's words are not without reason. Lung Qingtian chimed in. Seeing that her grandfather and the rest were all in favor of continuing forward, Lung Ruoxua could not help but turn her gaze towards Master Ning and the rest. Little girl, don't look at me like that. I'm here to accompany you. If you want to go, then go. First Elder quickly declared. Yup. Let's go. Isn't it just the king of vengeful spirits? Let's deal with them one by one. I don't believe we can't kill them. Master Ning also said heroically. With the experience of killing the king of vengeful spirits, he was not so disgusted with the killing of the king of vengeful spirits. Miss, if there are more vengeful spirit kings, you can let us have a practice. Fengda requested before he stepped into the teleportation formation. Alright, this is a rare experience after all. If I don't let you participate, you'll regret it to death. Lung Ruoxua chuckled. Her group of subordinates were all battle maniacs. They must have been itching for a fight after watching their battle with the vengeful spirit king. Hee. That's great. Everyone chatted and laughed with ease as they stepped into the teleportation formation. Following the flash of a dazzling white light, Lung Ruoxua and the others were transported to a nameless place. The difference between this place and the blood-red mist was that this place was black. Miss, it's so dark here. Looking at the gloomy and dark sky, Fengda said gloomily. The atmosphere here was too depressing, and he didn't like it. Moreover, the smell of vengeful spirits here seemed to be even stronger than the blood-red land. Everyone be careful, the baleful force here is very heavy. Master Ning reminded him, and couldn't help but curse in his heart. Damn, what the hell is this place? How could there be such a heavy aura of death? Compared to the place just now, this place was even worse. As soon as Master Ning's voice fell, pairs of green eyes appeared around them, accompanied by harsh laughter. A terrible atmosphere suddenly shrouded everyone's heart. What a disgusting sound. Lu Tao covered her ears and complained. Thanks Lung Ruoxue summoned a flame to light up the place, revealing the owner of the eyes. They were still vengeful spirits, but their strength should be much higher than the ones in the blood-red land. These vengeful spirits were just fellows who had just gained sentience. Although their intelligence was not high, when the flame on Lung Ruoxue's fingertip lit up, they instinctively felt a trace of fear. They curled up their bodies and showed signs of running. However, how could Lung Ruoxue let them have their way? How could he not pay the price for daring to appear and scare them? At the same time, the dancing flames on Lung Ruoxue's fingertips had already flown towards the vengeful spirits. The vengeful spirits were so frightened that they fled in all directions. However, they were still no match for the speed of the flames. In the blink of an eye, more than half of the vengeful spirits had been destroyed. Those who were still alive were covered in wounds and looked at Lung Ruoxue with fear in their eyes. In one go, Lung Ruoxue released a few more flames in succession, thoroughly purifying the vengeful spirits. Once the vengeful spirits died, a lot of the yin qi dissipated, and the place turned from gloomy and dark to a dusky gray. However, even though the vengeful spirits were dead, Lung Ruoxue and the rest knew that the matter was not over yet. There were so many vengeful spirits here, so there should be a vengeful spirit king. When the king of vengeful spirits appeared in front of everyone, they knew that they had guessed wrong. There was not only one king of vengeful spirits here, but nearly 100 of them. Looking at the nearly 100 vengeful spirit kings in front of them, everyone couldn't help but feel their scalps go numb. No wonder the malevolent qi here was so strong. After all this trouble, it was all caused by these vengeful spirit kings. The dark green mucus on their bodies turned into black smoke after touching the ground, floating in the air. As time passed, the area became dark black. Humans, how dare you kill our subordinates? One of the vengeful spirit kings said angrily, and the other vengeful spirit kings also let out AOAO sounds in agreement. These vengeful spirits were their subordinates and also their food. This was because vengeful spirits could devour each other. This was also a way for them to advance in rank. The strong were respected among vengeful spirits. Now that this damned human had killed all the vengeful spirits, it meant that they had no food and no source of advancement. Therefore, they hated this human to death. So what if I kill him? Lung Ruoxue said nonchalantly. If they didn't kill those vengeful spirits, how were they supposed to survive? Kill them and you can stay here. The king of vengeful spirits was furious. It was impossible for a vengeful spirit to be born in less than 100 years. Therefore, in its eyes, even if all these humans were killed, it would not make up for their losses. What if I refuse? Lung Ruoxue smiled faintly as her beautiful eyes kept sizing up the vengeful spirit king that had spoken. This vengeful spirit king was slightly different from the others. It had very few eyes on its head, only 5 pairs, and it didn't have a horn. However, when it spoke, the other vengeful spirit kings could only echo, but they didn't dare to interrupt. If she didn't guess wrong, this king of vengeful spirits that was speaking should be the head of these vengeful spirit kings. It could also be said that it was the emperor of vengeful spirits. You still have to die. The king of vengeful spirits roared, and its words resonated with the other kings of vengeful spirits. Actually, Lung Ruoxue's guess wasn't entirely correct. Even though this vengeful spirit king's status was much higher than the other vengeful spirit kings, it had yet to reach the level of becoming a sovereign. Right now it was between a king and a sovereign. However, if Lung Ruoxue and the others had arrived a few million years later, it might have really become a sovereign. Chapter 1168. The Little Fellow from the Ning Family 3. It seems like we can't reach an agreement. In that case, let's start fighting. Lung Ruoxue didn't waste any more time, and said in a slightly provocative tone, "Oh, brothers, let's go and exterminate these humans." Hearing Lung Ruoxue's provocation, the king of vengeful spirits was enraged. Be careful, everyone. Lung Ruoxue turned around and reminded Fengde and the others softly. The flame in her hand was ready to be fired. Little girl, let's use the old method. The first elder transmitted his voice. The old method he was referring to was the same as before. They would be in charge of dealing with the king of vengeful spirits while Lung Ruoxue would be in charge of purifying them. Yes. Lung Ruoxue nodded her head slightly. At the same time, she sent a voice transmission to the others, telling them to do the same. As the king of vengeful spirits swarmed forward, Lung Ruoxue and the others quickly dispersed. Everyone summoned their own beasts, planning to attack the king of vengeful spirits one by one. Everyone automatically split into groups of 5, each of them bringing along 2 orcs. They set one of the vengeful spirit kings as their target, and began to gang up on it. In an instant, the sky was filled with flames. All sorts of divine powers danced in the air like ribbons. The vengeful spirit king's painful howls could be heard everywhere. Lung Ruoxue took the opportunity to channel her natal flames into the fire dragon's dance, and threw it towards the weakest vengeful spirit king. After a long time, with everyone working together, 2/3 of the vengeful spirit kings had died. Those who survived were all covered in injuries and looked at Lung Ruoxue and the rest with vigilance. Killing 2/3 of the king of vengeful spirits had also consumed a lot of divine power from Lung Ruoxue and the others. Hence, they took the opportunity to stuff many pills into their mouths to recover their physical strength and divine power, while the 2 sides were staring at each other. Vengeful Spirit King, it seems that you and your brother failed to kill us. Lung Ruoxue chuckled as she continued to provoke him. Damn humans, I won't let you off. After a short rest, the Vengeful Spirit King charged towards Lung Ruoxue in anger again. However, Master Ning would not give it a chance. He stopped it halfway and said with a faint smile, "I'm your opponent. Don't even think about my goddaughter. Get lost. I'm going to kill that woman." The King of Vengeful Spirits, whose path had been blocked, roared angrily. In fact, it was a little afraid of the person in front of it, so it did not want to have the opportunity to fight with him. Although the other party could not kill it, it would not be at an advantage either. I've said it before, your opponent is me. AI. A vengeful spirit is a vengeful spirit, you're really too rude. Master Ning grumbled. His handsome face was still full of hidden bitterness, but he was already laughing in his heart. He never knew that killing vengeful spirits could be so easy. This made him feel a sense of achievement. Although the main force to eliminate vengeful spirits was Lung Ruoxue, she was still his goddaughter. He was also honored. You should die too. The King of Vengeful Spirits was enraged, and it lost its mind and attacked Master Ning fiercely. However, it was weaker than Master Ning by a level. Hence, after the 2 of them had exchanged more than 10 blows, it showed signs of losing. Lung Ruoxue then found the right opportunity and purified it in one fell swoop. With the death of the most powerful Vengeful Spirit King, the rest of the Vengeful Spirit Kings were left without a leader. They fled in all directions in a panic. However, Lung Ruoxue and the rest would not let them escape. After recovering their physical strength and divine power, they swarmed forward and surrounded the vengeful spirits. Bang bang bang. Following a few loud sounds, the vengeful spirit kings that were still alive were beaten to the point of dying. Naturally, they could not escape the might of Lung Ruoxue's flames. A moment later, all the vengeful spirit kings were annihilated, and the sky where they were became brighter and brighter from the gray. However, this place had been occupied by the vengeful spirit kings for a long time. Hence, it had been corroded to an unsightly state. Everywhere she looked was in a complete mess. Only the teleportation array that was shining with a dazzling light was intact. This was probably the only thing that made Lung Ruoxue happy. "Miss, shall we go?" Lu Tao asked as she looked at the teleportation formation. She really did not want to stay here any longer. Although the vengeful spirits had been eliminated, the unpleasant smell would not be gone in a short time. Yes. Lung Ruoxue nodded and was the first to enter the teleportation array. The rest of them followed closely behind. After another round of teleportation, Lung Ruoxue and the rest opened their eyes and realized that they had been teleported to a place with beautiful mountains and clear waters. Not only were the mountains and waters beautiful, but there was also a faint mist floating in the air. Not only were there no vengeful spirits here, but the environment was also unbelievably beautiful. Compared to the first place they had been to, this place was simply a paradise on earth. Welcome to my territory. All of a sudden, a clear yet slightly resentful voice rang in the ears of Lung Ruoxue and the others. Lung Ruoxue and the rest lifted their heads and looked in the direction of the voice. They saw a beautiful man standing not far away. He was like a banished immortal. The man was shrouded in a translucent mist and seemed to be filled with immortal qi. However, this man's face seemed to be slightly green. Although it wasn't very serious, it still stood out on his extremely handsome face. Who are you? Lung Ruoxue looked warily at this stunningly beautiful man who had suddenly appeared. Thanks, Bing Yao. You can call me Brother Yao. The beautiful man said softly, revealing a smile that could topple cities. After hearing this celestial-like handsome man's words, Lung Ruoxue's face was filled with black lines. She thought to herself, what a fellow who comes to know others by himself. However, she didn't have the habit of calling someone brother the first time they met. May I know where this is? Lung Ruoxue asked after some thought. This can be considered my residence. Bing Yao frowned and replied. You're actually neighbors with vengeful spirits? Why didn't you get eaten by those vengeful spirits? Lung Ruoxue was simply too curious. However, she could also tell that this man's cultivation was extremely high, probably not below that of her godfather. Little Shuer, do you really want me to be eaten by the vengeful spirits? Bing Yao asked with an aggrieved expression. His bright eyes were filled with resentment, as if Lung Ruoxue had said something she shouldn't have. Go away. Who allowed you to call my little girl Little Shuer? When Master Ning heard how Bing Yao had addressed him, he couldn't help but get angry. Lung Ruoxue was also speechless. She wasn't even close to this man, yet he called her Little Shuer. However, what she wanted to know more was how this handsome man knew her name. How do you know my name? Lung Ruoxue asked after some thought. I just know. And I know everything about you. Bing Yao smiled but didn't say anything. His face was mysterious, and his eyes sneaked a glance at the bracelet on Lung Ruoxue's wrist. His actions did not escape Lung Ruoxue's eyes. Hence, she was on high alert and secretly hoped that this man would not have any ideas about the universal bracelet. Otherwise, she would have to fight to the death. Little Shuer, am not a bad person. Bing Yao could feel Lung Ruoxue's wariness and quickly tried to defend himself. A bad person would never admit that there's a problem with his character. Besides, a bad person doesn't know how to write on his face. Lung Ruoxue answered honestly. In other words, it was useless for her to say that she was not a bad person. The moment Lung Ruoxue's words left her mouth, Fengda and the rest were instantly on their guard. They stared at the immortal-like man with suspicion, as if they were prepared to attack if he dared to act rashly. Little Shuer, am really not a bad person. I even know this little guy from the Ning family. Bing Yao said helplessly. The little guy from the Ning family? Who was he talking about? Everyone looked at each other, their faces full of question marks, because among them, besides Master Ning, only his subordinates were from the Ning family. They didn't know which one he was talking about. Master Ning also looked at his subordinate in confusion and couldn't help but ask. Do any of you know him? Patriarch, we don't know any of them. Master Ning's subordinates said in unison. Of course they don't know me. I'm talking about you, the little guy of the Ning family. Bing Yao looked at Master Ning and said with a smile. Lightning. Earth-shaking lightning. Lung Ruoxue and the rest felt like they were struck by lightning when they heard Bing Yao's words. However, they wanted to laugh more because the head of the Ning family, the head of the 8 great divine domains in the divinity, had lived for countless years. The head of the Ning family had a very high status in the divinity, yet he was called a little fellow by a handsome young man who looked to be in his 20s. How could they not be surprised? When Master Ning heard Bing Yao's words, he was a little dumbfounded. After a moment of shock, Master Ning was depressed. Wu, how did he become a little guy? In his memory, there was no such person. However, this detestable man called him a little fellow in front of so many people. This made him a little angry from embarrassment. Damn it, you're not allowed to call me little fellow. Master Ning roared. and the way Fengda and the others were trying to hold back their laughter made him even more furious. Then what should I call you? Little thing? Bing Yao teased Master Ning on purpose. Ha ha ha. After hearing what Bing Yao said, the great elder couldn't hold it in anymore. Damn it, this was too funny. He didn't think that old man Ning would have such a day. He laughed so hard that his stomach hurt. Old man, are you done laughing? Master Ning glared at him and shouted. I'm sorry. I don't want to laugh, but it's too funny, little guy. The first elder could not help but ask. Damn it. I want to fight you one-on-one. Master Ning glared at Bing Yao. This man in front of him was too despicable. However, what made him even angrier was that he couldn't see through this man. No matter what, he had to teach him a lesson for calling him a little guy. Humph. He would let this man know who the little fellow was. Are you sure? It's been many years since we last met, and the little fellow's temper has grown. Bing Yao still had a smile on his face, as if he was kind to a junior. I'm very sure. Master Ning said with certainty. For the sake of his face, he didn't want to be a little guy in this man's mouth. Otherwise, those old things would laugh at him in the future. Chapter 1169, Bingio's Identity 1. If that's the case, then I'll fulfill your wish. However, if I injure you, don't cry. Bing Yao said helplessly, which made Master Ning even angrier. Damn it, who is this person? They hadn't even started fighting yet. Was he planning to anger her to death? Master Ning couldn't help but curse in his heart, his anger boiling. It gushed up to his head. The next moment, Master Ning rushed out like an arrow. Bing Yao calmly received Master Ning's divine skill, and the two of them were entangled. After a while, the two of them had already fought for dozens of rounds. However, as the battle went on, Master Ning became more and more impatient, while Bing Yao still looked relaxed and calm. In Lung Ruoxia's eyes, Bing Yao was clearly toying with Master Ning. It looks like old man Ning is going to lose. The great elder who was watching the battle whispered. This old man Ning had always been strong. If he really lost to this young man, he was afraid that he would lose face. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but feel a little worried. Bingio's strength is indeed above Godfather. Even though they were both reverent god-level cultivators, their abilities were different. Bing Yao's abilities were definitely at the top of the reverent god level. Who is this Bing Yao? Why are you here? Feng Die's face was full of question marks. In fact, these questions were also what everyone wanted to know. Little guy, you've lost? Bing Yao said with a faint smile after blocking another wave of divine power. I admit defeat. Master Ning said gloomily. He wasn't someone who couldn't afford to lose, but he was upset to lose to this man who called him little guy. Little guy, I haven't seen you for many years. You've improved a lot. Bing Yao consoled. In fact, he didn't want to hurt the confidence of the little guy from the Ning family. Humph. Master Ning snorted and turned away, not looking at Bing Yao anymore. Hee hee, you're angry, little guy. Bing Yao chuckled. Don't you dare call me little fellow. Master Ning gritted his teeth. He didn't want to pay attention to this man, but he kept calling him little guy. So he couldn't ignore him. It was really infuriating. But in my eyes, you're just a little guy. Don't you agree? Little Schwer. Bing Yao turned his head, his deep and bright eyes staring at Lung Ruoxia. How would I know? I don't even know you. Lung Ruoxia rolled her eyes and said in a speechless manner. Little Schwer, you actually said you don't know me. I'm so sad. Bing Yao's tears quickly welled up in his eyes, but they did not fall. Lung Ruoxia looked at Bing Yao, who was as handsome as a fairy, and she didn't know what to say. She wanted to shout. Image. Pay attention to your image. You're a beautiful man. How can you pretend to be pitiful? Should I know you? Lung Ruoxia asked after a moment of silence. Yes. I've known you for a long time. Of course you know me too. Bing Yao revealed a bright smile, and said as a matter of course. What kind of logic is this? Lung Ruoxia was depressed. Who said that she had to know this man just because he recognized her? Thanks, I really don't know you, said Lung Ruoxia. She felt extremely helpless in her heart. Although she didn't want to break this immortal-like man's fantasy, she still didn't know him. What a pity. Such a beautiful man with such high strength was actually mentally unstable. It was a good thing that Bing Yao did not know how to read people's minds. Otherwise, if he knew that Lung Ruoxue thought that he was mentally unstable, he would probably bang his head against the wall in frustration. Little Shui, I'm so sad to hear you say this. My heart is broken. Bing Yao said pitifully, but his words gave Feng De and the others goosebumps. Suddenly bang! A loud sound was heard, and the place where everyone was at shook violently. Immediately after, an angry roar resounded through the clouds. Break your head! Damn you, you bastard! A tall figure rushed out from behind Bing Yao and threw a punch at his face. Lung Ruoxue and the rest widened their eyes as they looked at the violent man who had suddenly appeared. They could not help but shout, "Freak! Guild leader Yi!" The violent man who had just punched Lung Ruoxue turned around when he heard the shouts. He looked at Shui, who was not too far away. He left Bing Yao behind and ran towards Lung Ruoxue. Shui, I missed you so much. The demon hugged Shui tightly and said affectionately, "Freak. Are you alright?" Lung Ruoxue asked worriedly. Yes, I'm fine. Ling is fine too. The demon said hurriedly. Shui, I've made you worry these past few days. The demon said as he hugged Lung Ruoxue even tighter. Cough cough. At this time, two clear coughs sounded in everyone's ears. Only then did they remember that there was an outsider here. Needless to say, it was Bing Yao. At this moment, Bing Yao had a huge dark eye ring on his left eye after being punched by the evildoer. It was hanging on his handsome face. When the crowd saw his appearance, they couldn't help but laugh. Ha ha. Ha ha. Are you guys done laughing? Bing Yao's eyes were wide open as he asked unhappily. Then he turned his resentful eyes to the demon and said, You've forgotten your friends at the sight of a woman. How can you treat me like this? You're always getting slapped in the face, Wu. Evildoer, you know him? Lung Ruoxue asked curiously. We can be considered acquaintances. However, I'm not familiar with him, so there's no need to pay attention to him. The demon said indifferently. How can you do this to me, little Shui? You have to be my judge. Bing Yao asked for help. I can't help you. Lung Ruoxue rejected, but her heart was filled with suspicion. She was curious and wary about Bing Yao's identity. Little Shui, you really break my heart. Wu master. What should I do if junior sister doesn't acknowledge me? Bing Yao sighed. His words shocked Lung Ruoxue and the others. Chapter 1170. Bingio's Identity, 2. Everyone looked at Bing Yao in disbelief. What he said just now had them all dumbfounded. Master? Junior sister? What was going on? What did you just say? Lung Ruoxue narrowed her eyes and asked cautiously. I said junior sister doesn't want to acknowledge me. Bing Yao laughed evilly. I gave you a fright. Who's your junior sister? Lung Ruoxue could not help but ask. Of course it's you. Little Shui, come and let senior brother hug you. After Bing Yao finished speaking, he opened his arms and made a hugging gesture. He looked at Lung Ruoxue expectantly, but he was ignored by her. What evidence do you have? Lung Ruoxue asked cautiously. Even though her master had said that she had two senior brothers, she did not know what they looked like. Hence, she could not believe Bing Yao, this senior brother who had just appeared out of nowhere. Feng De and the others also looked at Bing Yao in surprise. They kept looking at him up and down. Was this man really her young Miss Senior brother? Do we still need evidence for this? Bing Yao was depressed. Why didn't little Shui believe him? Did he look like a scammer? Of course I do. I can't just acknowledge that he's my senior brother just because he says so. Lung Ruoxue replied matter-of-factly. He can be my witness. Bing Yao pointed at the demon and said. To be honest, he couldn't produce any evidence when little Shui asked him to. After all, they didn't have any token of trust between them. And master probably didn't show little Shui their faces. Otherwise, little Shui would have recognized him. Everyone turned to look at the evildoer with question marks on their faces. The crowd could not understand why Bing Yao said that Yichen could prove it. They weren't close. Shui, this guy is indeed your senior brother. The demon said helplessly and glared at Bing Yao, blaming him for dragging him into this. Since you say so, then he is. Lung Ruoxue didn't doubt his words. Even though she didn't completely believe Bing Yao's words, she believed that the demon would not lie to her. Little Shuer, you're too biased. Why don't you believe me when I say it, but you believe everything he says? Bing Yao said gloomily. Because he's my man and you're just a stranger. Lung Ruoxue replied matter-of-factly. That's true. So now you know that I'm your senior brother. Come, call me senior brother. In fact, he had wanted to have a junior sister for a long time, but unfortunately, master's standards were too high, and he had never taken in a female disciple. Senior brother. Lung Ruoxue called out softly. With such a powerful senior brother, it did not seem like it was a loss to her. Be good. Bing Yao laughed happily, his hand uncontrollably reaching out to touch Lung Ruoxue's head, but was slapped away by the demon. Thanks, don't touch me. Otherwise, be careful of your claws. The demon glared at him and warned. She's my junior sister. Bing Yao reminded. Shouldn't a senior brother dote on his junior sister? Why couldn't he even touch her head? She's my woman. If you dare to touch a single strand of her hair, I'll chop off your claws. The demon said viciously. Junior sister, this man is too violent and terrifying. Let's change to another one. I'll find you a gentle one. Bing Yao said, not afraid of death. What did you just say? The demon narrowed his eyes and asked with an unfriendly expression. Then, without giving Bing Yao a chance to reply, he threw a punch at his face, and everyone heard a bang. Bing Yao's right eye was punched again. This time, both eyes were symmetrical, and Bing Yao looked like a giant panda. Ha ha. The crowd couldn't help but laugh again when they saw Bing Yao's face, and the one who laughed the most was Master Ning. Then there were more bang bang bang. After a few loud sounds, Bing Yao's handsome face turned into a pig's head after being greeted by the demon. Master Ning, who was gloating, looked at the evildoer with admiration. He thought to himself, he's really an evildoer. He could actually beat a reverent god into a pig's head. He was his idol. Damn it. How many times have I told you, you're not allowed to hit my face? Bing Yao couldn't help but roar. This was really infuriating. This man liked to hit people's faces every time he hit them. However, he narcissistically thought that this guy was jealous of him. The other parts are too hard. With my current strength, I can only hit your face. The demon laughed evilly before he threw a few more punches. Looking at the two men who were chasing after him, Fengde walked to Lung Ruoxue's side and asked softly, Miss, is that Bing Yao really your senior brother? The evildoer said yes. It should be true. Lung Ruoxue replied. Although she knew that the evildoer was hiding a secret from her, who wouldn't have a secret? As long as they had no ill intentions, it was nothing. If the demon didn't tell her, she wouldn't ask. This was the most basic trust between them. Sister, that Bing Yao is the old master's disciple. Although I don't have his face in my memory, I still remember his aura. At this moment, Qingju's voice rang out in Lung Ruoxue's heart. As a weapon spirit, he wouldn't pay attention to what was going on outside all the time, but what was happening outside couldn't be hidden from him. As soon as Bing Yao appeared, he felt a familiar aura. However, before Bing Yao's identity was revealed, he wouldn't say anything. After all, his memory of Bing Yao was very vague. Qingju, you haven't seen Master's other two disciples either? Lung Ruoxue asked in surprise. I can't say that I've never seen them before. It's just that when I saw them, I had yet to develop my own intelligence, let alone transforming into a human form. After I gained my own intelligence and could transform into a human form, they went to other realms to train and rarely returned to the divine realm. Thus, I can't be considered to be very familiar with them. Qingju explained. The old master had been managing his two disciples like a herd of sheep. After giving them what they could learn, he had thrown them into another realm and left them there. When the old master had met with an accident, he had not seen his two disciples return. Now that he thought about it, perhaps the old master had sent them to another realm to protect them. Chapter 1171, Bingio's Identity 3. Oh! Lung Ruoxue nodded her head. At this moment, the evildoer was done beating her up and returned to Lung Ruoxue's side. He hugged her tightly in his arms once again. She's my junior sister. Bing Yao looked at the man who was holding his junior sister and complained in a low voice. Wu, why is my junior sister being held by that violent man when I can't hold her? It's so unfair. She's my woman. The demon also said. All right, stop quarreling. Since you're my senior brother, why are you here? Can you explain? Lung Ruoxue chuckled. Even though she had acknowledged this senior brother of hers, she still had many questions. Hence, she had to clarify them. Let's find a place with no one around. Bing Yao smirked and brought Lung Ruoxue away. The demon looked at his empty arms and instantly, his anger rose. Damn it. He actually dared to snatch someone from his arms. He was really looking for death. Seeing the evildoer's dark face, everyone tacitly stayed away from him to avoid being implicated. They did not want to become someone else's scapegoat. At this moment, Lung Ruoxue had been brought to a wooden house by Bing Yao. Lung Ruoxue lifted her beautiful eyes and sized up the room. The room was not very big, but the air in the room was filled with dense spiritual energy. The decorations in the room were also very particular. As for the wood used to build the wooden house, it was the rare 1,000-year-old Nanmu wood, which was extremely precious. You can start now. Lung Ruoxue said calmly. Little Shui, can you take me to the universal bracelet to have a look? Bing Yao requested, his deep eyes looking at the bracelet on Lung Ruoxue's wrist. Sure. Lung Ruoxue nodded. With a thought, she brought Bing Yao into the bracelet. Bing Yao stood on the ground of the medium, his eyes filled with deep nostalgia. He took a deep breath and left Lung Ruoxue behind to wander around the bracelet alone. After a long time, Bing Yao had returned, his eyes still a little wet. Lung Ruoxue didn't need to ask to know that this fellow had gone to find a place to cry. Little Shui, I want to take a look at the purple bamboo house. Bing Yao requested. The current owner of the purple bamboo house was Lung Ruoxue, so without her permission he could not enter. Yes. Lung Ruoxue nodded and brought Bing Yao into the purple bamboo house. The decorations in the purple bamboo house were the same as before. It was exactly the same as in his memory. Bing Yao looked at the familiar scene in front of him, and the tears in his eyes flowed out again. Thanks, master. I'm back to see you. As he cried, he knelt on the ground and kowtowed a few times. Then he lay on the ground and started to cry. When Lung Ruoxue saw this, although she wanted to comfort him, she didn't know where to start. She was very clear that this cheap senior brother had been with her master for much longer than she had. His feelings for her master must be deeper than hers. Just let him cry as much as he wanted. Lung Ruoxue thought to herself. After a while, Bing Yao stood up and looked at Lung Ruoxue with embarrassment. Little Shui, I've lost my composure. It's fine. Lung Ruoxue said indifferently. Little Shui, I've been by master's side since I was young and have always treated him as my father. However, when master was in trouble, I wasn't able to stay by his side. This is my life's regret. It had been so many years, and he thought that his heart had calmed down. However, after seeing these familiar things today, he realized that he had always felt guilty, but he had hidden it. Then where were you at that time? Lung Ruoxue asked curiously. Little Shui, I am your eldest senior brother. You also have a second senior brother. Back then, when we grew up, master sent us to another world. So we did not know when master met with an accident. Later, when we found out that master had passed away, my junior brother and I secretly returned to the divine world. After we found out the truth of the matter, we wanted to avenge master. However, we were too weak at that time. Not only did we not manage to avenge master, we even almost lost our lives. After that, my junior brother and I were separated, and I fled here. This was the place where master sealed the vengeful spirits. The people who chased me didn't dare to come in, and I almost died here. Later, the vengeful spirit king and I didn't want to hurt each other, so we came to an agreement to mind our own business. Bing Yao explained. Then what was that formation that sucked us in? Lung Ruoxue asked in confusion. That formation was controlled by me. I was also the one who brought you guys in. Bing Yao hesitated for a moment before he spoke. His beautiful, bright eyes looked at Lung Ruoxue fearfully, as if he was afraid that she would be angry. What did you just say? Lung Ruoxue squinted her beautiful eyes and said in an unfriendly tone, I was the one who brought you here. Bing Yao shrunk his neck and whispered, I don't understand why he's so afraid of junior sister. One must know that his junior sister was only a beginner divine being while he was already a reverent god. You know that there are vengeful spirits here. Yet you still dare to bring us in. What if we die here? Lung Ruoxue suppressed her anger and questioned him. You won't die here. Don't you have the universal bracelet? If you really can't defeat those vengeful spirits, just enter the bracelet. Moreover, your flames are the nemesis of those vengeful spirits. They'll be more than afraid of you. How can I kill you? Bing Yao said honestly. What about that demon and Ling? What do you say? Lung Ruoxue's face was stern as she spoke coldly. That guy will be fine. Those vengeful spirit kings won't dare to show themselves when they see him. Bing Yao was speechless. What a difference. This was the difference. Thinking back, he had fought so hard. However, that person actually found this place without any effort. Oh, then what do you want to do by bringing us in here? Lung Ruoxue asked again. Of course it's to meet you. It wasn't easy for you guys to get to the waterfall, and I don't know when I'll see you guys again. I don't want to miss this opportunity. Bing Yao said honestly. Chapter 1172. Bingio's Identity 4. I can't leave this place, so I can only let you in. Bing Yao added. What do you mean you can't leave this place? Lung Ruoxue had a look of suspicion. Little Shui, actually, the array here only allows you to enter but not leave. I only realized that I couldn't leave after I entered, so I had no choice but to bring you in. Bing Yao said awkwardly. You're allowed to enter but not leave? Then why did you bring us in? Lung Ruoxue was speechless. Right now, she really wanted to beat Bing Yao up like a demon. This guy was too despicable. He knew that they couldn't get out of here, but he still brought a large group of people in. Among them were the people from the Ning family. If they couldn't get out in the future, the Ning family would be in chaos. I can't get out because I don't know about formations, but you're different. I believe that you will be able to bring us out of here. Bing Yao was very confident and said with certainty, Don't get your hopes up. My formation is only half complete. Lung Ruoxue rudely poured cold water on Bing Yao's head. She couldn't help but sigh in her heart. She really didn't know how this fellow could be so confident in her. How could the formation that Master used to seal the vengeful spirit be so easily broken? It's fine. I've been here long enough anyway. Now that I have you guys to accompany me, I don't mind when I can go out. Bing Yao said with a proud smile. You don't mind, but I do. Lung Ruoxue rolled her eyes and thought to herself. After hearing Bing Yao's words, her urge to beat him up became even stronger because he was really asking for it. Little Shui, whether we can leave this place or not all depends on you. Bing Yao said with a smile. You still haven't told me where we are. Lung Ruoxue asked calmly. Didn't I say that this is the place where Master sealed the vengeful spirit? Bing Yao asked in confusion. I know. I'm asking about where we are now. Lung Ruoxue explained. This is the center that controls the entire sealing formation. After I entered, I've been in control of this place. However, in order to prevent the vengeful spirits from escaping, Master did not leave behind the spell to unseal the seal. Bing Yao said. Oh. Let's leave this place first. I don't want to make the others wait. Lung Ruoxue nodded. Yes. Bing Yao looked at everything in the purple bamboo house. Although he was a little reluctant, he would have a chance to come in the future. Thanks then, Lung Ruoxue left the bracelet with Bing Yao. After that, they left the wooden house and returned to the crowd. When they saw Lung Ruoxue and Bing Yao, Fengda and the rest quickly surrounded their lady and looked around as if they were looking for something. Then, they looked at Bing Yao with caution. Don't look at me like that. I can guarantee that she's not missing a single hair. Bing Yao felt everyone's unfriendly gazes and quickly explained. How dare you kidnap my family's young brothers, attack. Beat him up. Under Feng Die's command, the people who were surrounding Lung Ruoxue changed their target. They all rubbed their fists and glared at Bing Yao with a murderous look. In the next second, They all swarmed up and started punching and kicking Bing Yao. However, as a reverent god, it was impossible for them to hit Bing Yao. Bing Yao knew how important these people were to his adorable junior sister. Hence, he didn't dare to hurt them other than dodging. Otherwise, he was afraid that Lung Ruoxue would fight him to the death. Lung Ruoxue was kind enough not to add insult to injury when she saw the crowd and Bing Yao chasing each other. However, she did not stop them. Instead, she leaned into the evil man's arms and watched the show. Fengde and the others could not hurt Bing Yao, and it was impossible for Bing Yao to do anything to Fengde and the others. So she was not worried that they would both be injured. Shui, did that guy tell you everything? The demon asked. Yes, I roughly said a few things. Lung Ruoxue nodded. Then, do you want to know about my relationship with him? The demon asked with a smile. I'll listen to you. If you don't want to tell me now, I don't have to know. Lung Ruoxue replied nonchalantly. She was very clear that there were some things that the demon would tell her sooner or later. He didn't tell her now probably, because it wasn't the right time for her to know. Then we'll talk about it in the future. It's a little early now. The demon said after thinking for a while. All right. By the way, evildoer, we've already destroyed the king of vengeful spirits here. Are we not able to leave? Lung Ruoxue asked in confusion. I can't get out unless I can break the seal here. The demon said honestly. But this seal was set up by Master. I am not confident. Lung Ruoxue said softly, feeling depressed. Shui, don't worry. If we can't get out, we'll just cultivate here for the time being. There's a spirit gathering array here. Although the spiritual qi here can't be compared to the space, it's much better than the outside world. The demon consoled. He didn't care if he could go out or not. As long as he was with Shui, it didn't matter where he was. Chapter 1173. The Formations I won. Yes. Lung Ruoxue nodded. After Fengde, Bing Yao, and the rest were done with the chase, Lung Ruoxue explained the situation to them. Everyone was dumbfounded. Shui, what do you mean we can't get out? Master Ning said with a surprised face, and thought in his heart, did little Shui mean what he was thinking? He couldn't believe it. This place only allows entry and not exit, so we can only stay here. Lung Ruoxue sighed softly, her beautiful face filled with helplessness. Shui, we can't stay here. Master Ning was sure this time and quickly said, Godfather, I want to go out too, but the truth is that we can't go out now. Lung Ruoxue spoke the truth. In other words, she wanted him to accept reality. What should we do? We really can't stay here. Master Ning sighed gloomily. If he was trapped here, the Ning family would think that something had happened to him. At that time, the Ning family would be in a mess. Miss, do we really have to stay here forever? Fengde also asked. Calm down, it's not forever. Whether we can get out or not, it all depends on little Shui. Bing Yao said with a smile. Aren't you the one controlling this formation? What does it have to do with my young miss? Fengde's eyes were wide open as he said unhappily, Humph. Don't think that just because this guy is my Miss Senior brother, I have to respect him. No way. He was still brooding over the fact that he had brought them in without permission. I only know how to control this formation, but I can't break the seal. Otherwise, I would have left long ago. Why would I still be here? Bing Yao shrugged and explained with an innocent face. Whether or not this seal can be broken, it all depends on little Shui. Bing Yao added. Little Shui, your godfather is counting on you. Master Ning stared at Bing Yao and said helplessly, Godfather, I can only say that I will try my best. However, I'm not sure when we can get out. Lung Ruoxue said honestly, it doesn't matter. It's better than never being able to get out. Master Ning said quickly, he didn't want to be trapped here forever. Godfather, there's only one wooden house here. You can arrange for them to build a few houses. We'll be staying here for the time being. I'll go and study this formation. Lung Ruoxue thought for a moment before she pulled the demon into the wooden house and commandeered it. That's my room. Bing Yao could not help but whisper as he watched Lung Ruoxue and the demon enter his house. If my family's young miss uses it, it's my family's young miss. Fengde roared in a domineering manner. Bandits! He wasn't afraid of Fengde and the others, but he was afraid of that violent man. That guy was also the only one among them who could cause him harm. Wu. Don't be so calculative, come and build a house with us. Master Ning grabbed Bingyao's arm and pulled him away from the place. Fengde and the others also started to get busy. After Leng Ruoxue and the demon entered the wooden house, they immediately teleported into the bangle. Thanks, sister. Qingju appeared in front of the two. Qingju, I'll go and study the formation here. You pay more attention to the movements outside. After giving her instructions, Leng Ruoxue entered the purple bamboo house. Leng Ruoxue stayed in the purple bamboo house for 3 days. For the past 3 days, the demon had been sitting on the stone chair outside the purple bamboo house, guarding Leng Ruoxue. This was the scene Leng Ruoxue saw when she came out of the purple bamboo house. Freak! Leng Ruoxue walked to the evildoer's side and gently wrapped her arms around his waist from behind. She then rested her head on his shoulder. Shui, you're out so quickly? How is it, any clues? The demon asked with concern. Not yet, I don't have a single clue, Sai. Leng Ruoxue sighed and said helplessly. She had been concentrating on her research in the cultivation room in the purple bamboo house for a few days. However, she had not made any progress at all. This made her feel a little dejected. Don't give yourself too much pressure. This ceiling formation is used to suppress those vengeful spirits, so its power is definitely much stronger than other formations. Otherwise, if even a single vengeful spirit were to escape, it would bring disaster to the divine realm, the demon consoled. Yes, I know. Evildoer, let's go out and see them. Leng Ruoxue suggested. After researching for a few days without any leads, she also wanted to relax. All right, he said. The demon chuckled as he replied. Sister. At this moment, the fire spirit arrived in front of them and called out softly. Little fire spirit, what's the matter? Leng Ruoxue asked as she hugged the adorable little doll. Sister, there's a method to temper one's body with divine flames in my inherited memories. It can transform the disheveled old man's life divine flame. The little fire spirit explained. He wanted to tell his sister about this when he came out of closed-door cultivation. However, at that time, his sister was busy fighting those vengeful spirits and then studying the ceiling array here, so he didn't have the chance to tell her. Really? Is there any danger? Leng Ruoxue asked in surprise. Yes, sister. There will definitely be danger. However, with me around, the danger will be minimized. Furthermore, the success rate will be greatly increased. The fire spirit said. But we don't have a divine fire right now. When Leng Ruoxue thought of this, she was in a difficult position. Sister, I'm the king of divine flames. With me around, why would you need divine flames? The little fire spirit said a little arrogantly, its proud tail almost reaching the sky. Since that's the case, let's go out and tell them the good news. Then, we'll choose a time to refine our bodies with divine flames. Leng Ruoxue said hurriedly. She knew that the disheveled old man had been waiting for this day for a long time. Yes. The little fire spirit nodded. Then the three of them left the bracelet together. After Leng Ruoxue and the other two walked out of the wooden house, they realized that there were many more exquisite houses around them. They did not need to guess to know that these were definitely built by Fengde and the others. Miss, why did you come out so quickly? Quiza's sharp eyes saw Leng Ruoxue and the other two, and she could not help but ask curiously. Chapter 1174. The formations I too. Silly girl, you're still complaining that I came out too early. Leng Ruoxue laughed lightly as she teased. Miss, I didn't mean it that way. I thought you would be in seclusion for a long time before coming out. Sueju quickly explained, afraid that Miss would misunderstand her. Haha, you're indeed a silly girl, little Shui, or was just joking with you. Bing Yao smiled. Then he walked to Leng Ruoxue's side and said with a charming face, Little Shui, or have you thought of a way to unseal the seal? No, I came out for other things. Leng Ruoxue laughed. What's the matter? Bing Yao asked curiously. At this moment, Fengda and the rest had gathered around, and were looking at Lung Ruoxue with question marks on their faces. The little fire spirit has thought of a way to improve the disheveled old man's life flame. Lung Ruoxue laughed lightly. The reason why she said that it was the little fire spirit's idea was also because the Ning family was here. She didn't want to explain too much. Really? This is great. Lu Feng looked excitedly at the little fire spirit in Lung Ruoxue's arms. His gaze was so hot that it was as if he was about to skin the little fire spirit alive. In comparison, the disheveled old man was much calmer. Yes, but it'll be very painful. Rotten old man, you must be able to bear it. The little fire spirit reminded him. Even with him around, the body tempering process with divine fire was still painful. However, he could at least guarantee the safety of the disheveled old man's grandfather. I'm mentally prepared. The disheveled old man nodded. Their words confused Master Ning, but there was no one to clear his doubts at this time. Then let's choose a time and start. The little fire spirit said after some thought. Can we do it now? Although the disheveled old man looked calm on the surface, he was actually very nervous deep down. Sure. Lung Ruoxue nodded. Bingyao, you're more familiar with this place. Help them find a quiet place. Lung Ruoxue said to Bingyao. All right, follow me. Bingyao nodded. Please reading on MYBOX no VL. Come you all wait here. Don't send too many people, just me the demon, first elder, Mo Yen Lu Feng, and the old ancestor will do. Lung Ruoxue said after some thought. Refining one's body with divine flame was equivalent to advancing one's cultivation realm. So she was more afraid of being disturbed. Furthermore, she did not want too many people to see the disheveled old man in pain, so it was enough for the few of them to stay by his side. Yes. No one had any objections to this. After all, they wouldn't be of much help even if they went. Then Bingyao brought Lung Ruoxue and the rest around a few corners and arrived at a cave. This cave was extremely dry and refreshing. It was about 2 meters high and extremely spacious. When Lung Ruoxue saw this place, she nodded her head in satisfaction. Then, she gave the little fire spirit and the disheveled old man a look. The two of them then sat down cross-legged facing each other, and prepared to start cultivating their bodies. The little fire spirit extended its fair and tender little hands and conjured a few spells in the air. Immediately after, the disheveled old man's body burst into flames. In the blink of an eye, the flames turned into a sea of fire, enveloping the disheveled old man within. The flame was controlled by the little fire spirit. It could be big or small, and the temperature could be high or low. However, no matter what the situation was, it was still painful for the disheveled old man. After all, the fire was really burning his body. The bone-piercing pain made him cry out in pain. Ah! The disheveled old man cried out in pain, causing the few people present to feel sorry for him. This was too cruel. Moreover, this was not quite the same as the divine fire body tempering that they knew. The divine fire body tempering that they knew was to fuse the divine flames. However, the current situation was clearly the little fire spirit using the fire to burn the disheveled old man. In other words, the disheveled old man was being burned inside and out by the scorching flames. However, since this was the Flame King's method, they could only keep their doubts to themselves for the time being, no matter how many questions they had. He's so pitiful. Let's burn him a little longer. This person. Under Lung Ruoxue's glare, Bingyao could not finish his sentence. However, everyone understood what he meant, because that was what they were thinking right now. Sigh. We must believe in the little fire spirit's method. Lung Ruoxue said calmly. Other than this, she didn't have any other methods. However, the methods that the little fire spirit knew of were indeed quite frightening. She just didn't know what the effects would be after refining her physique. Yes. Bingyao nodded and shut his mouth. After a long while, the flames on the disheveled old man's body gradually became smaller. As the little fire spirit cast a spell, the flames gradually extinguished. At this moment, the disheveled old man's entire body was charred black. However, his eyes were still closed and he was completely unaware of his own condition. Sister, this is only the first time. There will be more. Before anyone could say anything, The little fire spirit quickly explained. Oh, Lung Ruoxue and the rest nodded. However, no one asked any more questions in case they disturbed the person who was cultivating his physique. After waiting for a while, the little fire spirit started its second round of body tempering. As it cast its magic art, the disheveled old man's body caught on fire again. This time, the fire was even bigger than the first time. Even though Lung Ruoxue and the rest were far away, they could still feel the scorching heat. They could not help but worry for the disheveled old man. Slowly, the disheveled old man's cries of pain reached everyone's ears. However, none of them could help. This made them anxious and worried for the disheveled old man. After an unknown period of time, the flames on the disheveled old man's body were finally retracted by the little fire spirit. Immediately after, the little fire spirit began the third body tempering of the disheveled old man. Just like that, he repeated this process countless times. A week later, when the little fire spirit retracted his flame for the last time, he also told Lung Ruoxue and the others that he had succeeded in body refinement. Now, the disheveled old man's life flame was already a divine flame. When Lung Ruoxue and the rest heard the news, they were elated. However, the disheveled old man still showed no signs of waking up. At this moment, his body was also wrapped in a huge, black, circular cocoon. Hence, they could not see the disheveled old man's current state. The only thing they could do was to wait for the disheveled old man to wake up on his own. Chapter 1175. The Formations I3, a day later. The disheveled old man broke out of his cocoon, and finally woke up. When Lung Ruoxue and the rest saw the disheveled old man's appearance after he woke up, they could not help but be shocked. This was because none of them had expected that the divine flame that the little fire spirit had mentioned would actually have the effect of beautifying one's body. The disheveled old man in front of them had become at least 10 years younger. Right now, he looked to be in his early 40s at most. This was simply too unbelievable. Haha. My life flame is finally at the divine flame level. The first thing the disheveled old man did when he woke up was to check on his natal flame. When he saw that his natal flame had advanced as he wished, he could not help but jump up in joy. After feeling happy for a while, he then realized that Lung Ruoxue and the others were looking at him strangely. Girls, why are you looking at me like that? The disheveled old man asked in confusion. There was even a hint of fear on his face. See for yourself. Lung Ruoxue took out a mirror from her bangle and passed it to the disheveled old man. Ark. Who is this? The disheveled old man took the mirror and looked at it. He could not help but exclaim. Of course it's you. Lung Ruoxue chuckled. However, from the corner of her eyes, she saw that the little fire spirit was on the verge of fainting. She quickly ran over and hugged the others. Little fire spirit. Lung Ruoxue called out softly. Seeing this, the rest of the people surrounded her and looked at the little fire spirit with concern. Sister, I'm fine. I just want to sleep. The little fire spirit said in a half-awake state. It was too tired. Little fire spirit, thank you. Have a good rest. The disheveled old man said gratefully. He was so happy that he forgot about the little fire spirit after his body refinement was successful. Damn it. He felt a little guilty. Yes, it'll be fine after a nap. After the little fire spirit finished speaking, it closed its eyes and fell asleep. Seeing this, Lung Ruoxue immediately placed the little spirit fire into the bracelet and handed it to Green Vessel. Then, the few of them returned to their residence together. Miss, you're finally back. We were so worried. When Fengda and the rest saw Lung Ruoxue and the others, they quickly surrounded them. Please reading on MYB Oxno VEL. I'm sorry to have made everyone worry about me. The disheveled old man said apologetically. From Lung Ruoxue's words, he found out that he had used up close to 10 days to temper his body with divine flames. Who are you? Fengda and the others looked at the middle-aged man who spoke and asked in confusion. This person looked a little familiar. I'm a rotten old man. The disheveled old man rolled his eyes and said speechlessly. He suspected that these people were doing this on purpose. Sob. Were they just teasing him? However, He had really wronged Fengde and the others this time because they did not expect that the disheveled old man would become younger after his body was refined by the divine flame. Therefore they naturally did not think that way. Arg. It can't be. Fengde and the others widened their eyes in disbelief. They thought to themselves, isn't it body tempering with divine flames? Could it be that it had changed to divine fire beauty treatment? If you don't believe me, you can ask the girl and see if I'm the one. The disheveled old man pouted his lips and said with an aggrieved look, young miss. Fengde and the rest turned their gazes towards Lung Ruoxue and called out softly, he's the rotten old man. Lung Ruoxue said with certainty. However, she was laughing to herself inside. Wasn't it just that the rotten old man had become a little younger? Did they have to have such a big reaction? Then what should we call him in the future? What's wrong? Fengde asked dumbly. He couldn't call the old man anymore, could he? He did not expect the young old man to be so handsome. However, he was not as good-looking as him. Of course him called rotten old man. The disheveled old man said hurriedly. He felt that this form of address was familiar. If he were to change it to something else, he would not be used to it. Congratulations, old man. Seeing the disheveled old man in a bad mood, the old man rejoiced in a weird tone. There's no need to congratulate me. You guys go ahead, I'll go back to my room and try out this life's origin divine flame. After the disheveled old man finished speaking, he whizzed away. Then he entered his room. Why is this old man so restless? Lin Liang could not help but tease the disheveled old man when he saw how anxious he was. Just understand him. Lung Qingtian said with a smile. After waiting for so long, his natal flame had finally advanced. Anyone would be excited. Miss, do you want to celebrate tonight? Fengde asked expectantly. They hadn't celebrated for a long time, and today was a good reason to have a big meal. Okay, go and prepare. Lung Ruoxue nodded. All right. Yes, Fengde replied. After that, he took Lin Yuan and the others to prepare dinner. They were busy for 2 hours and finally prepared the food for dinner. At night, everyone was happy and lively for the whole night. It was not until the next morning that their spirits slowly dissipated, and they went back to their rooms to rest. After that, Lung Ruoxue hid in the purple bamboo house and focused on studying the seal's formation. Time passed. Very quickly, a month's time passed. For the past month, Lung Ruoxue had not left the purple bamboo house at all. Every day, she would stare at the miniature ceiling formation in a daze. When she got tired of it, she would study other formations. Even though she was still unable to unseal the formation, her attainments in the field of formations had improved by quite a bit. She had also learned from some of her master's records that there were 2 conditions to unseal this sealing array. One was to destroy all the trapped vengeful spirits in the array, and the other was to find the array eye of the sealing array. She had already fulfilled the first condition a long time ago. However, she had not been able to find the formation's eye in the second condition. Moreover, there were no hints in her master's records. Therefore, she had been searching for the formation's eye for the past month. She had tested it many times on the miniature sealing formation. However, the formation's eye was always hidden and refused to show itself. This made Lung Ruoxue feel a little annoyed. She knew that she shouldn't continue searching in her current state. Otherwise, not only would she find nothing, but it would also affect her mood. With this thought, she turned and left the purple bamboo house. Lung Ruoxue walked over to the demon who was still sitting on the stone chair, and sat beside him. No harvest. The demon understood. I didn't find the formation core. Lung Ruoxue asked, feeling a little depressed. Chapter 1176, The Formation's Eye 4. Don't push yourself too hard. We're not in a hurry to leave this place. It's not bad to cultivate here. The demon laughed as he consoled her. He didn't want Shui to give him too much pressure because she was in a hurry to bring everyone out of here. And accompany me for a walk. Lung Ruoxue requested. All right, he said. The demon nodded. Then the 2 of them took out the bracelets together. When Fengde and the others saw them outside the room, they did not go forward to ask about the situation of breaking the seal. Instead, they continued to do their own things. Lung Ruoxua and the demon held hands as they walked around the large area. Then, they found a huge green rock by the river and sat down. That huge rock was close to 2 meters tall. It was squarish and its surface was extremely smooth and flat. Lung Ruoxua sat on it and leaned against the evildoer's chest. She looked down from above and observed the place as far as she could see. The space enclosed by the ceiling formation was not very large. Besides, other than a wooden house, a few stone chairs, and a stone table, the only decoration was probably this large green stone. Generally speaking, the array core was hidden in the array and operated with the array. She had tried many times on the miniature seal array, but found nothing. However, she naturally did not doubt the effectiveness of the miniature array. After all, the miniature array was a miniature of the entire seal array. The effect of undoing the array on it was the same as undoing the array on the seal array. Could this huge green rock that she was sitting on be the formation's eye? Lung Ruoxua pondered to herself as countless thoughts ran through her mind. Although she was suspicious of the stone, she did not find anything suspicious after careful observation. Then she turned her eyes to other places. She had ruled out the huge green stone, so there was only the wooden house and the stone table and chairs in the yard. She didn't know if these things had existed before Bing Yao came, or if he had built them himself. At the thought of this, Lung Ruoxua called Bing Yao over. "Senior brother, what do you have here?" Lung Ruoxua asked calmly. Please reading on MYB Oxno VEL. Calm little Shui when I came here, this place was exactly what you saw. I didn't touch anything. However, after you guys came, there were more houses here. Bing Yao said after some thought. Oh, Lung Ruoxua nodded. Since she had set the eye of the array outside the array, then the wooden house and the stone table and chairs in the courtyard had become her biggest suspects. Little Shui, why are you asking this? Bing Yao asked curiously. I'm looking for the formation's eye, Lung Ruoxua replied. Formation core? Shouldn't the formation's core be together with the formation? Why are you thinking about the house and the tables and chairs? Bing Yao asked in confusion. Because I couldn't find the formation's eye in the formation, so I could only target them. Lung Ruoxua said innocently, her beautiful eyes looking past Bing Yao to observe her target. Bing Yao and the demon saw how focused she was and did not disturb her, only staying by her side silently. Lung Ruoxia's gaze shifted from the stone table to the stone chair, but she didn't feel any difference. Then she turned her gaze back to the wooden house. The wooden house did not look big from the outside, but it was a completely different world inside. It was complete, and there was a faint trace of spiritual energy in the wooden house. Spiritual qi? The spiritual qi in this wooden house was very rich. However, this was because there was a spirit gathering array in the wooden house. As a result, the spiritual qi in this place had also become rich. Spirit gathering array. All of a sudden, Lung Ruoxua had an idea. As if she had thought of something, she exclaimed, "Woof!" Then, he stood up from the huge green rock and ran straight to the wooden house. After entering the wooden house, Lung Ruoxia's beautiful eyes scanned her surroundings. After a long time, her beautiful face revealed a smile that could topple cities. What's wrong? Is there anything unusual about this wooden house? Bing Yao and the demon asked in unison. There's a spirit gathering array in this wooden house, right? Lung Ruoxua asked instead of answering. Yes, operating the ceiling formation requires the support of a large amount of spiritual energy. That's why Master specially set up a spiritual energy gathering formation here. Bing Yao replied. That's right. In fact, this wooden house is not only a spirit gathering array. It is also the array eye of the entire ceiling array. All this time, I have been looking for the array eye in the miniature ceiling array, but the array eye was not on the ceiling array. Lung Ruoxua explained. But this wooden house can't possibly be the formation's eye, right? Bing Yao asked suspiciously. Even though he didn't know much about formations, he had heard of them before. He had never seen anyone whose formation's eye was not on the formation. Moreover, he had been sleeping in this room all this time. If this room was really the formation's eye, then he would be sleeping in the formation's eye. Just thinking about it was terrifying. Why not? Lung Ruoxua asked. I've never heard of it. Bing Yao said matter-of-factly. Chapter 1177. The Territory Plan 1. Just because you've never heard of it doesn't mean it's impossible. Besides, not everyone can set up the formations outside the formation. Lung Ruoxue laughed evilly. That's true. Master's attainments in formations are unparalleled, but I still think it's a little too far-fetched. Bing Yao was still in disbelief. Since you still don't believe me, then let's try. Lung Ruoxue suggested with a smile. Yes. Bing Yao nodded. As the saying goes, what you hear is false, but what you see is true. If one had not seen it with their own eyes, it would be very difficult to believe such a mysterious thing. Then, the three of them left the wooden house. Lung Ruoxue stood in front of the wooden house. She kept on releasing the hand seals from her white and tender fingertips. When Fengda and the rest saw this, they were also attracted over. However, they were tactful and did not say a word to avoid disturbing Lung Ruoxue. As for the method of unsealing the seal, she had tested it many times on the miniature array, so she had long memorized it by heart. As he cast over 1,000 spells, the wooden house was gradually enveloped by a white light. Slowly, the wooden house was completely submerged in the white light. All Lung Ruoxue had to do next was wait. After a long time, the dazzling white light finally disappeared. Without the spirit-gathering formation that was set up with the wooden house as the center, the spiritual qi in this place gradually became less and less. However, the seal formation that had been blocking them had also disappeared, and the scenery outside was fully displayed in front of them. Where is this place? Fengda and the others widened their eyes and were stunned again. Ugh! How could they be on the top of a nameless mountain? Without the protection of the seal, the cold wind from the surroundings directly blew on them. Everyone couldn't help but shiver and ran into the wooden houses at the same time. It's so cold. What the hell is this place? Everyone could not help but complain. Originally, with the protection of the seal formation, this place was as warm as spring and the scenery was pleasant. However, once the seal formation disappeared, the real situation here was presented before everyone's eyes. This place was not just any ordinary cold. Please reading on MYB Oxno-VEL. Come hehe if I'm not wrong, this place shouldn't be far from that 10,000-year-old snow mountain. Master Ning said happily. Little guy, you're right. We're only 1,000 meters away from the 10,000-year-old snow mountain. Bing Yao explained, but the words little guy angered Master Ning again. Damn it, I told you not to call me little guy. Master Ning jumped up and down, shouting at the top of his voice, not caring about his image. As for his subordinates, they all lowered their heads and did not dare to look at their master. In my eyes, you're just a little guy. Bing Yao said innocently. Swear your senior brother is bullying me. He's really rude. Master Ning ignored Bing Yao and turned to Lung Ruoxue to complain. Let's discuss the next step of our plan. Lung Ruoxue changed the topic. The two of them gave her a headache, so it was better for her not to get involved in their conflict. Little Shuer, what are your thoughts? Bing Yao asked with a smile. You're the senior brother, of course I have to listen to you. Lung Ruoxue laughed evilly. Actually, she didn't have any other thoughts. She just didn't want the two of them to quarrel, so she just said it casually. I think we should find a place to settle down. We can't always be on the godly mainland. Bing Yao thought for a while and couldn't help but exclaim in his heart, little fox. He actually said he didn't have any thoughts, humph. He was really cunning. There's nothing wrong with the Four Seas being your home. At the very least, if we provoke a powerful enemy, they won't be able to find us. Lung Ruoxue retorted with a smile. Yes, what Miss said makes sense. Fengda and the rest immediately agreed while the evildoer and the rest looked at Lung Ruoxue with smiles. Little Shuer, there's no way we can gain a foothold in the divine realm if we run around everywhere. Many great powers would not be willing to cooperate with us. Bing Yao reminded. It doesn't matter. As long as we have the strength, no one will dare to look down on us. Lung Ruoxue asked nonchalantly. Wasn't strength the most important thing in the immortal realm? Since that was the case, wouldn't it be enough for them to have the strength? That's not the same. Although strength is important, Territory is equally important. Otherwise, why do you think the 8 great divine domains have such great power in the divine realm? It was because they occupied a large territory. As long as a top-notch force doesn't have a fixed territory, it's not easy for them to establish themselves in the divine realm. Bing Yao explained. That sounds reasonable, but all the better places on the godly mainland have been occupied. What else can we get? Lung Ruoxua asked again. Her beautiful face seemed to be in a dilemma. The godly mainland is not small. Although most of the places have owners, little shui, formations, so the location is not important to us. We just need to find a place that has no owner and is large enough. Bing Yao said after some thought. Is there such a place on the godly mainland? Lung Ruoxua had a look of suspicion. I've chosen a few places. Everyone can choose one of them. With that, Bing Yao took out a map of the godly land from his storage ring and showed it to everyone. The places marked with red dots are all occupied. We won't consider them for the time being. The few places I've chosen are all marked in blue. One is here. This is a wide plain. The area is very large and there are few people here. It's more suitable to be a territory, Bing Yao explained. And here, this is the northernmost part of the godly mainland. It's made up of 3 mountains and a forest. It's a huge area, but the forces here are more complicated. Other than the big clans that send people here to train and explore, the beasts here are the strongest on the godly mainland. And finally, this place. It's located at the southernmost part of the godly continent. It's warm all year round and the scenery isn't bad. It's the best of the 3 places I've chosen, but it's not as big as the first 2. It's a pity. Bing Yao continued. How could such a good place not be occupied? Lung Ruoxua asked in disbelief. Chapter 1178. The Territory Plan 2. Little Shui, there's something you don't know. This place isn't very big, and it's quite far from the center of the divine continent. It's hard to get there, so the powerful forces don't even care about this place. The small forces can't occupy this place either, so as time goes by, this place became ownerless. Bing Yao said. Oh, Lung Ruoxua nodded. Little Shui, you can choose one of these 3 places to be our territory. After all, a power without a territory would not be able to truly establish itself in the divine realm. Bing Yao said with anticipation. Then let's do it here. Lung Ruoxua replied without hesitation. The situation here is very complicated. Bing Yao said helplessly. Just as he had expected, little Shui, had really chosen this place. This restless little girl. However, it was just what he wanted. What are you afraid of? With you around, what can't we do? Lung Ruoxua had put a high hat on Bing Yao. It was obvious that she wanted to be a hands-off manager again. Little Shui, you can't be so irresponsible. I'm just one person. Bing Yao quickly said. Don't be afraid. I'll get Fengda and the others to help you. Lung Ruoxua said with a smile. What about you? Bing Yao asked in a daze, his handsome face full of innocence. I'm here to watch the fun. Lung Ruoxua replied calmly. You can't just watch. Bing Yao protested. Why not? I've already lent you my subordinates, and you're still not satisfied. Lung Ruoxua teased. You're the head of the family. Bing Yao said softly. Only the head of the family can be a hands-off shopkeeper. The matters at home will naturally be left to you to run. Lung Ruoxua said with a smile. For some reason, her words resonated with Master Ning's subordinates. Some of them even felt that she was right. All right then. Bing Yao accepted his fate. Sob. It seemed like the violent man was right. Little Shui, was a lazy person. Please reading on MYB Oxno VL. After deciding on the location of their territory, everyone sat on the back of the little peacock and set off for their destination. After flying for almost half a month, they finally arrived at the place that Bing Yao had mentioned. As it was located in the northernmost part of the godly continent, the temperature here was slightly lower than the other places. Looking down from the sky, they saw 3 towering mountains, and a large lush forest surrounded the 3 mountains. Shui, although this place is a little remote, It's backed by mountains and forests. It's easy to defend and hard to attack. The resources are also rich. It's a good place. It'll be perfect if we can conquer the surrounding cities. Master Ning said after a moment of silence. There are a total of 5 cities closest to this place, all of which belong to small families. Those 5 cities are also the only way to this place, so naturally they have to be subdued, Bing Yao said matter-of-factly. In fact, the territory he mentioned included the 5 cities, but he didn't say it out loud. Since that's the case, he'll subdue all 5 cities at the same time. Lung Ruoxue agreed. Little Shui, these 5 small cities are the Dark Wind City, Fulia City, Northern Yan City, Southern Yan City, and Linjiang City. The Northern Yan City and Southern Yan City belong to the same family, and this family can be considered the most powerful among these small forces. Why don't we start with them? Bing Yao suggested. You decide for yourself. You're the one running the errand. Lung Ruoxue's focus was on participation. As for running errands, she would naturally leave it to her senior brother Bing Yao. After hearing Lung Ruoxue's words, Bing Yao smiled bitterly and gloomily, while Fengda and the rest laughed to themselves. Let's first go to Yanbei City to take a look, Bing Yao said helplessly. When he said that he wanted to take a look, he didn't mean it was just a casual look. Yes. Everyone nodded. Then, the little peacock turned around and headed toward the direction of Northern Yan City. Yanbei City was an unremarkable small city in the northernmost part of the godly continent. It was unremarkable because its area was too small. However, as the saying goes, relying on the mountains to survive, because of the mountains and forests behind it, Yanbei City was very rich. The economy of the city was quite developed. Although there was still a big gap between it and the big cities, its prosperity was definitely one of the best among the small and medium-sized cities. After paying the entrance fee, Lung Ruoxue and the others walked on the streets of Northern Yan City. Looking at the bustling pedestrians and the shops on both sides of the street, the crowd could not help but sigh. For a small city to be able to have such a prosperous economy, it was clear that the city lord had put in a lot of effort. The total permanent population of Yanbei City was less than 1 million. However, Yanbei City received nearly 10 million people every day. Among those people, nearly 90% were foreigners. Therefore, there were many inns in Yanbei City. It could be said that one could see an inn after taking 2 or 3 steps, and almost every one of them was fully occupied. Lung Ruoxue and the rest chose a slightly larger inn to stay in. Due to the limited number of rooms in the inn, they had to share a room with 5 people. However, this was nothing to cultivators. Once they became deities, they could forget about sleeping. After settling down, Fengda and the rest split into 3 groups and went to the city to gather information. Lung Ruoxue and the demon stayed in the inn. In the bracelet, Lung Ruoxue and the evildoer leaned on each other, and did not speak for a long time. However, deep affection surrounded the two. Shui, you've already planned to find a territory, right? The demon said. Well, I can't hide anything from you. Actually, as far as I'm concerned, it doesn't matter if I have a fixed residence or not. However, I have to think about those people on the Haotian continent. Since they have followed me, I can't let them wander around and be bullied after coming to the godly land. If we have a fixed territory, it will be easier for them to find us. Lung Ruoxue said with a smile. Hehe. However, you're really bad to let Bing Yao handle this matter. The demon laughed evilly. This was his suggestion. Although I like it, I can't be too obvious. After all, there are still outsiders here. Lung Ruoxue sighed. The outsiders she was referring to were naturally Master Ning's subordinates. Although Master Ning was her godfather and she had acknowledged him, this did not mean that she would acknowledge his subordinates. Chapter 1179. The Territory Plan 3. Then how do you plan to conquer these 5 small cities? Kill all the city lords? The demon asked curiously. Subdue those that can be subdued, kill those that can't be subdued. Lung Ruoxue said after some thought. She was a good child and would not kill people easily. Those who were killed by her would naturally have a reason to be killed. The city lords of these cities have occupied this place for many years. They must have some tricks up their sleeves. The demon said. Moreover, the place we've set our eyes on is famous for being a dangerous place on the divine mainland. Otherwise, these small cities would have changed owners a long time ago. The demon added. How dangerous is it? Lung Ruoxua asked curiously. Although that place is surrounded by tall mountains, the forest in the mountains is the main body. It is called the Nightmare Forest. From the name alone, you can imagine that it is very dangerous. The demon explained with a smile. As for how dangerous it was, of course, Shui had to experience it herself. A nightmare and an illusion? Since it's so dangerous there, why are there so many people taking the risk? Aren't they playing with their lives? Lung Ruoxua said disapprovingly. She had always thought that the bigger the head, the bigger the hat. Trying to put on a brave front would only cost her life. Isn't there a saying that wealth comes from danger? The more dangerous a place is, the greater the opportunity. Since that's the case, it's naturally incomparably attractive, and those who take the risk, how many of them don't want to get lucky? The demon explained. This should be considered a common disease of humans. In my opinion, he's clearly looking for death, Lung Ruoxua said disdainfully. If one wanted a good opportunity, they had to see if they had the life to enjoy it. Otherwise, it was no different from seeking death. As the two of them were chatting, Qingju appeared in front of them and said, Sister, Fengde and the others are back. Oh, Lung Ruoxua nodded and brought the evildoer out of the bracelet. In the living room, Fengde and Bingyao were already waiting for them. Senior brother Fengde, you're back so soon? Lung Ruoxua was a little surprised. Swear a small matter has happened. Bingyao chuckled, very happy. Please reading on myboxnovel.com. You're still so happy when something happened? Could it be that this matter is beneficial to us? Lung Ruoxua said. Yes. Bingyao nodded. Then don't keep me in suspense, tell me what's the matter. Lung Ruoxua urged. Miss Wuha Green Peach has been captured. Fengde said directly. Who took her? Lung Ruoxua asked curiously. By a big pervert, I wasn't there at the time, otherwise, I would have cut him into 8 pieces. He dared to capture my woman, he's really courting death. Fengde said indignantly, but he wasn't too worried. After all, it wasn't easy to take advantage of his green peach. He was captured by the city lord's young master. We were not present at that time. However, I heard from the onlookers that the city lord's young master took a fancy to Wu's beauty, so he took him and Lu Tao back to the city lord's mansion. Bingyao said, gloating. However, he did not deny that the city lord's son had good taste, because Wu was indeed a beauty that men could not refuse. What do you mean by falling for Wu's beauty? That city lord's young master is clearly falling for my family's Lu Tao's beauty. Fengde explained with a little dissatisfaction. After hearing Fengde's words, Lung Ruoxua's face was filled with black lines. It turns out that you don't care about Wuha Green Peach being captured, but who the city lord's young master wants to capture. She was really speechless. Couldn't her subordinates, thinking, be more normal? There was also the poor Wu. After the incident with evildoer and Ling, she wanted to turn Wu back into a man, but she realized that she could not. She asked Qingju and found out that there was a time limit for her transformation, and the time limit was at least 3 months. Therefore, Wu had to live as a woman for 3 months. There was still about a month left before Wu could turn back into a man. However, Wu was snatched away by a lecherous man. Wu must be depressed to death at this time. No matter whose beauty they have taken a fancy to, in short, it is a fact that they have been captured by the city lord's son. Let's discuss how to make use of this matter. Bingyao said excitedly, He was just thinking of a reason to break into the city lord's mansion. This really didn't take any effort at all. What kind of person is the city lord? Lung Ruoxua asked after hearing what Bingyao said. Miss, I heard that the city lord is a good person and has a good management. Otherwise, this little Yanbei city would not be so prosperous. The people in the city are very supportive of him. Fengde told him everything he knew. A good person? The definition of a good person was very broad. Lung Ruoxua smiled faintly and turned her gaze to Bingyao. Northern Yan City and Southern Yan City belong to the Yan family. The Yan family has established their main family in Southern Yan City. The Lord of Northern Yan City is the younger brother of the current Yan family head. However, the Lord of Northern Yan City is a concubine's son. As for the young master of the city lord, his background is also very suspicious. Bing Yao chuckled, his handsome face filled with mystery. How many cities does the Yan clan own? Lung Ruoxia asked. Only 2. In the divinity, there are countless small clans like the Yan clan. Bing Yao said. Since the Yan family only has 2 cities, why would the head of the Yan family let a younger brother born of a concubine become the lord of a city? Or is he very confident that this younger brother's prestige won't overshadow his, the head of the family? Lung Ruoxia was confused. The city lord of Northern Yan City was decided by the previous clan head, their father. Therefore, even if the current Yan clan head wants to object, he has no chance. Furthermore, after the Yan clan head became the clan head, his illegitimate younger brother has already gained a firm foothold in Northern Yan City, and is deeply loved by the people. Thus, even if the Yan clan head wants to use any despicable means, he will not have the chance. Bing Yao explained. Oh, Lung Ruoxia finally understood. Furthermore, there is more than one young master in Yanbei City. However, the one he loves the most is the one who snatched Wuha Green Peach away. Bing Yao chuckled. Senior brother, what are you going to do? Lung Ruoxia asked with an evil smile. Chapter 1180. The territory plan for Shuer. We'll have to ask that cheapskate ancestor of yours to handle this matter first. I've heard that the other son of the city lord of Yanbei City is quite talented in forging artifacts. Bing Yao suggested. It's just a small clan. Is there a need to go through so much trouble? Wouldn't it be easier for you to just charge into the city lord's mansion and save them? Lung Ruoxia suggested with a smile. That's not right. The lord of Yanbei City is very prestigious among the people. If we use force to obtain this city, those permanent residents will not be convinced by us. Moreover, this lord can be considered a talent in management. With him around, we can worry less in the future, right? Bing Yao said as he rolled his eyes at Lung Ruoxia. He thought to himself, this little fox clearly didn't plan to use force to occupy this city, but she still said that on purpose. How despicable. That makes sense. Then let's let the cheap ancestor take action. Lung Ruoxia said indifferently. In fact, if she wanted to occupy a city, it was not enough to just rely on martial arts. What she wanted was someone who could continue to manage the city in the future. Therefore, unless she had no choice, she would not attack the city lord. At the same time, in the guest room of the city lord's mansion, Wu Zheng was pacing back and forth like an ant on a hot nest. Wu, can you please stop loitering around? I'm getting dizzy. He leaned back comfortably on the recliner and kept nibbling on the green peach fruit. He sighed helplessly. Wu Zhen was not calm at all. I'm very annoyed. Wu said, a little depressed. What's there to be annoyed about? Miss will come and save us. Lu Tao said disapprovingly. I will definitely save him, but I don't know when. He was clear that their capture to the city lord's mansion was a once-in-lifetime opportunity for Lung Ruoxia and the others. How could those cunning foxes let it go? But he didn't want to face someone who would pester him every day. What was even more infuriating was that the person was a stinky man. Although he was a woman now, he was a real man in his bones. He felt disgusted just thinking about how he could endure a man's attention. Sob. Stinky Shui, or it was all her fault. Calm down. There's good food and drinks here. Let's just treat it as a vacation. Lu Tao consoled, her heart filled with sympathy for Wu, but unfortunately, she was unable to help. I can't stay calm. If you're being pestered by a stinky man, you'll understand how I feel. Wu roared in anger. Wu, do you understand how I feel? I am a real woman, but my charm isn't even half as good as you, a fake woman. How am I supposed to face this? I feel inferior in front of you. Lu Tao said half-truthfully. Of course, she was not feeling inferior, but she was really depressed. Looking at Wu, who could cause the downfall of a city, which man would not be moved? Then let's switch. Let that stinky man pester you, and don't bother me. Wu suggested. Please reading on MYB Oxno VL. Come Wu, your wish is good, but reality is cruel, because that guy has fallen for you. As for me, he also said that if you agree to marry him, he will be kind enough to let me be his bed-warming servant. Otherwise, I am not even worthy of being his bed-warming servant. Lu Tao reminded. These words were personally said by the city lord's son. Although she really wanted to beat up this self-sentimental guy after hearing it, she also knew that now was not the time. However, there would always be an opportunity and she was not in a hurry. Someone's coming, shush. Suddenly, Wu made a shushing gesture, and the two of them immediately stopped talking. In the study of the city lord's mansion, the city lord Yan Kuan was in his study dealing with official business. However, he suddenly received a report from his subordinate that someone wanted to meet him. He opened the note that his subordinate had handed him, and his eyes widened in disbelief. He then asked anxiously, "Where is he?" "Wait outside the door." The subordinate reported. "Damn it, hurry up and invite him in." Yan Kuan said in a slightly annoyed manner. "Yes." The subordinate turned to leave, but was stopped by Yan Kuan. "Wait, I'll invite him personally. Go find the second young master, and ask him to come to the living room. There's an important guest here," Yan Kuan ordered. After that, he hurried to the gate of the city lord's mansion, and invited the guest into the main hall. "Your Excellency Lung Xiaoyu, I really didn't expect that you would come to our northern Yan city, hee. Your arrival has really brought glory to our city lord's mansion, and I'm very lucky." Looking at Lung Xiaoyu, who was sitting opposite him, Yan Kuan was so excited that he forgot himself and was incoherent. Chapter 1181. The City Lord's Mansion's Reaction 1. City Lord is too kind, I'm just a small blacksmith. Lung Xiaoyu said disapprovingly. Hee, you're too humble, Yan Kuan said with a smile, but he couldn't help but wonder in his heart, is there a little blacksmith that everyone in the divine continent knows? Furthermore, even in the divine realm, Lung Xiaoyu was quite famous. Who asked her to have a master who was the deputy president of the Armament Guild headquarters, and was also a talented armament refining genius. After hearing Yan Kun's words, Lung Xiaoyu smiled but did not say anything. Her starry eyes kept sizing up City Lord Yan. City Lord Yan looked to be about 50 years old. Although he was approaching his middle age, it was not hard to tell that he was a handsome young man when he was young. Although he was only a mid-level deity, he had a shrewd and capable look. "Father, do we have a guest?" Suddenly, a clear voice entered Lung Xiaoyu's ears. She could not help but raise her head and see a young man walking in from the door. The young man was about 20 years old, and had a handsome face. Although he was only the young master of a small family, he had a calm and magnanimous appearance. His strength had already reached the middle level of the early divine realm. It was clear that Yan Kuan had spent a lot of effort on him. This young man should be the city lord Yan Kun's second son, the one with the talent for refining weapons. Lung Xiaoyu thought to herself, but she looked at Bing Yao who had come with her without saying anything. Then, a faint smile appeared on her handsome face. "Is this the city lord's son?" Lung Xiaoyu asked despite knowing the answer. Hee, it's my son. Tower, quickly come and greet Her Excellency Lung Xiaoyu. Yan Kuan introduced with a smile. Yan Tao greets Xiaoyu. When Yan Tao heard his father's words, he suppressed his excitement and bowed to Lung Xiaoyu respectfully. "Young Master Yan, you're too polite," Lung Xiaoyu said politely as she looked at the young man who was full of admiration. Hee, you might not know this, but my son has loved refining weapons since he was young. Therefore, he has a special admiration for you. It's just that he has never had the chance to meet you. Yan Kuan explained with a smile. Although he really wanted to ask Lung Xiaoyu to stay in Yanbei City for a few more days, he was afraid that it would be too abrupt and would make her unhappy. "Oh, City Lord, I will be staying in northern Yan City for a few days. If young Master Yan is free, you can come to the inn and look for me. I can also give you some pointers," Lung Xiaoyu said, taking advantage of the situation. "That's great. Thank you, Miss Xiaoyu." Yan Kuan was overjoyed. If he could get close to Lung Xiaoyu, Then his son would not be bullied in the city lord's mansion in the future. Yan Tao thanks Lady Xiaoyu for her love. Yan Tao was so excited that his eyes were filled with admiration for Lung Xiaoyu. Young Master Yan, you don't have to be so polite. It's nothing. Lung Xiaoyu was very calm. Please reading on MYB Oxno VEL. Calm actually, I've come here to ask for a favor from the city lord. Lung Xiaoyu said with a troubled expression. If there's anything you need, just say it. As long as it's within my power, I'll do my best. Yan Kuan said with great sincerity. It's like this, 2 of my juniors were robbed on the streets yesterday, so I want to ask City Lord Yan to help me find them. I don't know if this matter will make things difficult for City Lord Yan? Lung Xiaoyu said, a little embarrassed. The reason why they had only come to the City Lord's residence a day later was to make the City Lord feel that they had no one to look for, and had come to him for help. Who's so bold as to steal a junior from Lady Xiaoyu? Yan Kuan couldn't help but be shocked and ask in disbelief. I don't know him either. I heard from an insider that the one who snatched him was a young master. He even said that he was some tyrant of northern Yan City. After all, we are outsiders, so we have no choice but to ask City Lord Yan for help. Lung Xiaoyu said helplessly, his extremely handsome face showing his depression at the right time. Don't worry, Your Excellency Xiaoyu. I'll do my best to help you find the person. Yan Kuan promised. However, he could not help but feel shocked, especially when Lung Xiaoyu mentioned the tyrant of Yanbei City. His uneasiness grew stronger and stronger. Then I'll thank the city lord first. Lung Xiaoyu smiled as she expressed her gratitude. You're too kind, Miss Xiaoyu. Yan Kuan quickly said. After that, the 2 of them chatted for a while more before Lung Xiaoyu found an excuse and left with Bing Yao. After sending off Lung Xiaoyu and the other man, Yan Kuan summoned the butler with a gloomy expression and ordered him to find the eldest young master. Father, could it be that you suspect Big Brother of doing this? Yan Tao guessed. Humph. Who else could it be if not him? Other than him, who else would dare to do as they please in northern Yan City and call themselves a king? Yan Kuan said, holding back his anger. In the past, he could turn a blind eye to his eldest son's actions. However, he couldn't do it now because his unfilial son had provoked Lung Xiaoyu. He even suspected that Lung Xiaoyu had already found out about this matter. Therefore, he had to deal with it properly. If it was really Big Brother's doing, what does father plan to do? Yan Tao could not help but ask. Of course, we'll hand him over to Her Excellency Lung Xiaoyu. Our Yan family cannot bring disaster to ourselves because of him. Yan Kuan said coldly. In fact, he didn't say anything. For the future of his second son, he had to hand over his eldest son. This was also a way of showing his goodwill to the other party. Hearing his father's words, Yan Tao no longer spoke. Tower, don't you think that father is too heartless? Yan Kuan looked at his second son and thought to himself, this child is too kind. Sigh. No, I know father is doing this for my own good. After a moment of contemplation, Yan Tao said. His words also made Yan Kuan feel quite comforted. It's good that you can understand father's painstaking efforts. Yan Kuan let out a long sigh of relief. At this moment, the eldest young master, who had received the butler's order, also came to the living room unwillingly under the butler's supervision. Father, why are you looking for me? The Yan family's eldest young master asked unhappily as he sat down opposite Yan Kuan. Unfilial son, did I let you sit down? Yan Kuan said angrily when he saw his eldest son's rascally appearance. Father, if you have something to say, just say it. I'm very tired. The Yan family's eldest young master did not notice his father's anger and urged him on. Chapter 1182. The City Lord's Mansion's Reaction to Unfilial Son. Kneel down. Yan Kuan roared, but the young master of the Yan family did not take it seriously. He continued to do what he wanted, and even picked up the fruit on the table to eat. Butler, make this unfilial son kneel down. Seeing that his eldest son didn't even take his words seriously, Yan Kuan couldn't help but become even angrier. Yes, City Lord. The butler replied. Just as he was about to move, He was stopped by the Yin clan's eldest young master. Audacious slave, who dares to touch me? The Yin family's eldest young master glared at him and roared. Eldest young master, your subordinate apologizes. The butler said apologetically. Then he kicked the eldest young master's stomach. The eldest young master's knees gave way, and he knelt on the ground. Dog slave, you dare to offend your superior? I am the young master of Northern Yin City, and you dare to disrespect me. The Yin family's eldest young master said in anger. I'm sorry, young master. I'm only following the orders of the city lord. The butler didn't even look at the eldest young master as he spoke indifferently. Unfilial son, let me ask you, did you snatch people from the streets again? Yin Kuan asked directly. So what if I am? It's their good fortune to be liked by me. Yin Kuan said disapprovingly. TSK, he thought it was something big. It turned out that his father had called him over for such a trivial matter. This was really too much. Unfilial son, you're really audacious. You actually dare to rob anyone. You want our Yin family to be praised by you, don't you? Yin Kuan roared in anger. Father, please calm your anger. Yin Tao saw that his father's expression was not right and quickly comforted him. Master, please calm down. The butler quickly said. Only the Yin family's eldest young master was unconcerned. He casually said, Is it that serious? Father, you're exaggerating. Housekeeper, go and get the family law. Today I will beat this unfilial son to death, so that he won't bring disaster to our Yin family. Yin Kuan was infuriated, especially when he saw the disapproving look on the young master's face. He was so angry that he couldn't keep this unfilial son of his alive any longer. Yes. The butler replied and turned to retrieve the family law. Please reading on MYB Oxno VEL. The so-called family discipline was nothing more than a tool used by the great families to carry out punishment. When the Yin family's eldest young master saw the stick in the housekeeper's hand, which was thicker than his arm, his face turned green with fear. It must be known that this was not an ordinary stick, but a holy weapon passed down in the family. It was also specially made by a blacksmith hired by his father for the use of family discipline. As far as he knew, many people who had violated the Yin family's rules had died under this stick. He did not want to be hit, nor did he want to be a dead soul under the stick. Execute. Yin Kuan said emotionlessly. Humph. The person he had offended this time was Lung Xiaoyu. For the good of the Yin family, he could not keep this son. Father. Father. I was wrong, mother. Help me. When the steward's staff landed on the Yin family's eldest young master, the young master let out an earth-shattering cry for help. Arg. It hurts so much, mother. Save me. Father is going to kill me. The Yin clan's eldest young master howled. His howl had indeed attracted the attention of the servants, and some of them even went to inform the eldest young master's mother, the lady of the city. Not long after, the city lord's wife arrived. When she saw her son's bloodied body, the anger in her heart exploded. Without thinking, she rushed forward and gave Yin Tao a slap. Yin Tao, who had been slapped, did not say a word, nor did he dodge. His pair of starry eyes stared straight at the city lord's wife. Damn you, little bastard. You didn't even help when you saw the city lord beating up your big brother. The city lord's wife didn't dare to blame the city lord, so she could only vent her anger on Yin Tao, this son of a concubine. I wonder how auntie would like me to help? Yin Tao sneered and questioned. How dare you? Is this how you speak to your elders? The city lord's wife bellowed. This was truly heaven-defying. Never in her dreams would she have thought that the second young master, who had always been cautious in front of her, would actually dare to question her. This made her feel that her authority had been challenged. If you want others to treat you as an elder, then you have to act like one. Otherwise, no one will respect you. Yin Kuan looked at Yin Tao with heartache and said in a cold tone, Humph. This woman was getting more and more out of control. He had tolerated her for so many years, but she kept challenging his bottom line. This was outrageous. What does the city lord mean? Are you blaming me for hitting your precious son? The city lord's wife asked. Isn't Tao your son? You gave him a slap the moment you came up, and you still want him to respect you? Yin Kuan sneered. Isn't that Qi your son? How could you be so cruel? The city lord's wife retorted sarcastically, not showing any weakness. After she ran into the living room, the guests stopped the execution under the city lord's eye signal. I've pampered him too much in the past, and now he's caused an irreparable disaster. If I don't give him a good beating, how am I going to explain it to the other party? Yan Kuan said angrily. You have the final say in this northern Yan city. What kind of disaster can't be fixed? Obviously, the mayor's wife didn't believe Yan Kun's words. She even believed that Yan Kuan wanted to kill her son, so that the little bastard could get the mayor's position. You really are a woman with long hair and short knowledge. I am merely the city lord of this little northern Yan city. In the entire divine continent, and even the divine realm, there are many people that we cannot afford to offend. Do you really think that I, as the city lord, can do whatever I want? Yan Kuan mocked. What did that cheer do? I can't believe I made you so angry. After hearing Yan Kun's words, the mayor's wife's heart sank, but she also calmed down a bit. He snatched another woman yesterday. Yan Kuan glared at his unconscious eldest son and said, So what if I snatched a woman? At most, well, just let him go. The city lord's wife said disapprovingly. In the past, Chier had done this kind of thing many times. After the city lord found out, he only gave a small punishment, then gave the woman who was robbed some money and let her go. Therefore, she did not think that this kind of thing was a big deal. That's easy to say. Do you know whose girl he's snatching this time? Yan Kuan said angrily. Chapter 1183. The City Lord's Mansion's Reaction 3. Who's that? The City Lord's wife's face was full of question marks, her mind constantly turning back and forth, and secretly thought, could it be that the girl who was robbed had a very big background? If that was really the case, it was no wonder that the City Lord would lose his temper. She's a junior of Her Excellency Lung Xiaoyu. Yan Kuan growled. Lung Xiaoyu? Which Lung Xiaoyu? The City Lord's wife didn't react for a moment. How many Lung Xiaoyus can there be? Yan Kuan roared. City Lord, are you sure it's that Lung Xiaoyu? Are you a fake? The mayor's wife had a look of disbelief on her face. If it was really the famous Lung Xiaoyu, why would she come to a small place like the northern Yan city? She really couldn't understand. Why don't you try pretending? Yan Kuan said in an unpleasant tone. What do we do now? Hearing Yan Kun's words, the city lord's wife had no idea what to do. Although she was used to being domineering at home, she would definitely be the first to panic if something serious happened. You're asking me, but who should I ask? Yan Kuan said with his eyes wide open. In fact, he had an idea in his heart, but he would not say it out easily. Father, the most important thing right now is to send back the girl that Big Brother snatched. Otherwise, if Lady Xiaoyu blames us, our entire Yan family can't afford to be punished. Yan Tao said calmly. Tower is right, but sending her back won't be enough to appease her anger. Yan Kuan said after a moment of silence. Master, what should we do? I only have one son, you have to save him. The city lord's wife pleaded with tears in her eyes. At this moment, she had long lost her strength, and only had fear. Chier is my eldest son and the next city lord of Yanbei City. Do you think I would want something to happen to him? Yan Kuan sighed and said helplessly. Madam, since that girl was snatched by then I'll have to trouble you to personally release that girl. You're both women, so it's easy for you to talk to each other. This way, we can also show our sincerity. Yan Kuan said after thinking for a while. All right, master, I'll go now. After the city lord's wife finished speaking, she left the living room in a hurry, not even caring about her injured and unconscious son. Not long after the city lord's wife left, she came back dejectedly. Yan Kuan and his son looked at each other and understood. Please reading on MYB Oxno VL. Come madam. Why are you back so soon? Has that young lady settled down? Yan Kuan pretended to be confused. Master, I wanted to arrange for that girl to leave the city lord's mansion, but she still refused to do so. The city lord's wife said gloomily. Actually, she still had one more thing to say. Not only did she say some nice things, but she had also threatened and bribed him. who knew that he would not be moved at all, and would insist that the city lord uphold justice. What did the lady say? Yan Kuan asked anxiously. She asked you to seek justice. The Yan family must give her an explanation. Otherwise, you will bear the consequences. The city lord's wife said with an ashen face. She had always been a woman of her word in northern Yan City, but now, a little girl was not giving her any face. How could she not be angry from embarrassment? However, due to the other party's status, she had been holding back. Father, it seems like you have to make a trip down personally. After hearing the city lord's wife's words, Yen Tao spoke. Fine, I'll go and meet this girl. With that, Yen Kuan strode into the guest room. When he first saw Wu, the first thing he felt was beauty. She was too beautiful. No wonder his incompetent eldest son wanted to snatch her back to his residence. However, this was a thorny beauty. How could she be so easy to snatch? If it was not resolved properly, he was afraid that all his years of business would be destroyed in one day. This was something that he absolutely could not tolerate. I am the city lord of Yanbei City. May I know your name, young lady? Yen Kuan said in a friendly manner. How can my family's young lattice name be casually revealed to others? Wu did not say anything and just sat quietly on the chair. Lu Tao replied on his behalf. I've been presumptuous. Yen Kuan looked a little embarrassed. City lord, my family's young miss isn't that easy to snatch. I'm afraid you can't afford the price of snatching our young miss. Lu Tao did not waste any words and went straight to the point. Miss, please state your conditions. As long as it's within my power, I will not let you down. Yen Kuan said in a fawning manner. Oh really? Since that's the case, then hand over the pervert who stole my family's young miss. As for the other conditions, we'll let you know when we've thought of them. Lu Tao said after some thought. Master, you can't hand the chess pieces over to them. Upon hearing Lu Tao's words, the city lord's wife quickly said. She was very afraid that Yen Kuan would hand over his son in order not to offend Leng Xiaoyu. It seems that the city lord is not very sincere. Since that's the case, there's no need for us to continue our discussion. Lu Tao said with a hint of ridicule. You better shut up. How dare you threaten the city lord? I think you must be tired of living. Let me tell you the truth. Except for the few of us, no one knows that you are being imprisoned in the city lord's mansion. If we kill you, no one will know. So you'd better be tactful. Don't blame me for being merciless if you annoy me. The city lord's wife couldn't help but threaten again. Her words made Yen Kun's face turn extremely ugly. This damn, stupid woman. At this time, Yen Kun really wanted to strangle her. However, as the saying goes, dirty laundry should not be spread in public, so he didn't think it was a good time to deal with his first wife. However, he also couldn't let his blind wife offend the two women in front of him. However, before he could open his mouth, Green Peach spoke first. Is the city lord's wife threatening us? If we were to lose even a single strand of hair, I'm afraid that the entire Yanbei city would be buried with us. That's right. I forgot to tell you that the other young lady in my family is the goddaughter of the current Ning clan head in the divine realm. Hearing Lu Tao's words, Yen Kun's heart, which was already in a state of panic, thumped even harder. All of a sudden, he sank to the bottom of the valley. At this time, he also had the heart to die. Wasn't it enough to offend Leng Xiaoyu? Now the master of the Ning family was involved as well. Did he want to die? The Ning clan was a great crocodile of the divine realm. How could a small clan like them afford to provoke them? Chapter 1184. The City Lord's Mansion's Reaction 4. When the City Lord's wife heard Lu Tao's words, she was obviously stunned. Then she laughed wildly and said, Ha ha, little girl, you're quite good at guessing. If you're the goddaughter of the master of the Ning family, then I'm the goddaughter of the divine master. Obviously, the city lord's wife didn't believe Lu Tao's words, but Lu Tao didn't mind. At least, she had achieved her deterrent effect, which was enough. She didn't expect the other party to believe her. You shut up. Yen Kuan shouted after hearing his wife's words. Old master, these two are clearly liars. They actually used the master of the Ning family to scare us. We can't let these two people live. The mayor's wife said to Yen Kuan with a murderous look. City Lord, you have to choose carefully. Lu Tao also reminded with a faint smile, not a trace of anger on her beautiful face. I'm sorry, my wife's mental state is a little abnormal. I think her illness has acted up. I hope you two don't mind too much. Yan Kuan quickly said after hearing Green Peach's words. Master. The city lord's wife was about to get angry, but she was knocked unconscious by Yan Kuan, who suddenly attacked. Looking at the city lord's wife who was lying on the ground, Wu smiled and asked in confusion. City Lord, what do you mean by this? The words just now were all nonsense when Furin's illness acted up. I hope that the two of you do not mind too much. Yan Kuan said as he wiped the cold sweat off his forehead. Don't mind. That's impossible. He paused for a moment before speaking. Then how can young Lattice anger be appeased? Yan Kuan asked helplessly. Didn't my maidservant say that she wants you to hand over the person who snatched me? Of course, if the city lord is unwilling, I will not force you. Wu said calmly. All right, I will hand that useless son over to the young lady to deal with. Yes. Yan Kuan agreed without hesitation. City lord is a straightforward person. I am very satisfied. However, just this is not enough. Wu Yu chuckled. What other conditions does Miss have? Yan Kuan couldn't help but ask. Please reading on MYB Oxno VEL. Calm, the city lord's son snatched me away and caused serious damage to my body and mind. You should at least give me some compensation. Wu said as a matter of course. Don't worry, miss. I won't let you down. Yan Kuan quickly promised. City lord, I haven't finished my words, don't be too anxious. I understand the city lord's difficulties. I wonder if you have any thoughts of changing the current situation? Wu said with a faint smile. Wu's words were very subtle, but he believed that Yan Kuan, who had been the city lord for many years, would understand. Moreover, he did not want Yan Kuan to think that he was a person who would take things by force. Although they were interested in Yanbei City, it was only for the sake of better management of the territory that they had chosen. After all, for them, if the only way to the Nightmare Forest was in their hands, then their safety factor would greatly increase. The reason why Lu Tao had revealed that they were related to the Ning family was also to let the city lord understand how big his power was. If he had chosen this place, he could still get it by force. Sure enough, after hearing Wu's words, Yan Kun's expression changed drastically, but he still remained calm and said, I naturally want to change the current situation. However, Yanbei City is, after all, left behind by our ancestors. Therefore, I can't be an unfilial descendant. Please allow me to consider it. Yan Kun's words were neither accepted nor completely rejected. They had made preliminary contact and had fully revealed their intentions to Yan Kuan. Now it was up to Yan Kuan to make his own choice. After the initial contact between the two sides, Yan Kuan personally sent Wuha Green Peach back to the hotel. Of course, his incompetent eldest son was also involved. However, he did not feel distressed. After all, in his opinion, it was a good deal to sacrifice his eldest son to keep the whole family safe. After returning to the city lord's mansion, Yan Kuan locked himself in the study. Father, what happened? Yan Tao gently knocked on the door twice, then pushed it open and walked in, asking with concern. Tower, the Yan clan is in big trouble this time. Yan Kuan said with a headache. Then, he told Yan Tao about the other party's plan. Father, if the other party is really as powerful as you say, they could have killed us all and then occupied this northern Yan city. However, they did not do so, which means that they are not bloodthirsty people. After all, the lives of the Yan family are the most important. Yan Tao thought for a while and advised. Chapter 1185. The Storm at the Yan Family 1. Tower, how can I face my ancestors like this? Besides, I've kept the position of city lord for you. Yan Kuan said with a sigh. Father, our Yan family is not even worth mentioning in the divinity. If we really anger the other party, won't the Yan family be the one to suffer? Moreover, it's not the same if we give up the city of our own accord as if they've taken it away. After all, the divine world is ruled by the strong. If we don't have the ability to defend our own territory, in the eyes of others, we'll only be regarded as incompetent. And my eldest uncle has always been eyeing Northern Salt City covetously. I admit that I am not cut out to be the city lord. Rather than letting Northern Salt City fall into my eldest uncle's hands, I would rather give it to an outsider. Yentao was very honest. In fact, he did think so in his heart. He did not want to be trapped in this city. He loved refining weapons the most, and once he became the lord of a city, he would not be able to focus on being a weapon master. Moreover, he knew his uncle's character. His uncle had planned for many years. How could he let the meat by his mouth benefit a bastard son like him? You don't regret it? Yen Kuan watched his second son very seriously as he asked, Father, you should know that this is not my goal. Yin Tao said seriously, All right then. Then well, do as you say, AI. If Her Excellency Lung Xiaoyu is willing to accept you as a disciple, Father will be even more at ease. Yen Kuan said after thinking for a while, Dad, I'm already very satisfied that Lady Xiaoyu is willing to give me pointers. Why would I be so greedy? Yin Tao said with a smile. Hehe, I was too greedy. Tower, it's rare that you can see it clearly, but you must grasp this opportunity. Remember to come to the inn more often when you're free. Yen Kuan reminded. Okay, I'll go find Her Excellency Xiaoyu tomorrow morning. Yen Tao said impatiently. In the room of the inn, Lung Ruoxua looked at Wu, who was sitting opposite her, and teased. Wu, no one took advantage of you, right? Bad girl. Do you really want me to be taken advantage of? They all asked. Why would I? Lung Ruoxua laughed evilly before asking. How do you plan to deal with the city lord's son? I want him to suffer a fate worse than death. Wu said through gritted teeth. Can I plead on his behalf? Lung Ruoxua chuckled. Please reading on myboxnovl.com, of course not. Wu glared at Lung Ruoxua and said fiercely. All right then. However, I still have use for that fellow. Don't play him to death. Lung Ruoxua reminded. Yes, I know what I'm doing. Wu nodded and left the room. Not long after, Lung Ruoxua and the rest heard a series of howls coming from the room next door. The howls were so miserable that it made their hair stand on end. The howls had also attracted the attention of the inn's manager, waiters, and even the guests who were staying in the inn. Lung Ruoxua and the rest heard the noise outside, and walked out of the room. When the shopkeeper saw them, he immediately came forward to welcome them and said with some difficulty, Miss, I wonder what happened in that room. It's nothing. One of my subordinates' old illness acted up again. I'm really sorry to have disturbed the other people in the shop. Lung Ruoxua looked at the people in front of her, and said guiltily, May I know what illness young lattice subordinate is suffering from? The shopkeeper asked with an awkward expression. He's crazy. He's always delirious and likes to talk nonsense. He even likes to bite people when he's crazy. Lung Ruoxua explained with a smile. Arg. Miss, he won't run out of the room and scare the other guests, right? When the innkeeper heard this, he couldn't help but feel a little scared. To be honest, he really wanted to ask this beautiful lady in front of him if she could ask that person to move to another place to stay. However, he didn't dare and didn't want to offend these people who didn't seem to be easy to deal with. Shopkeeper, don't be afraid. He won't run out of the room. It's just that when his illness acts up, his voice will be a little loud. However, it doesn't happen often. You can let the guests in the shop bear with it. Or you can ask them to stay in another inn. Feng De put his arm around the manager's shoulder and suggested. I'll tell them. The innkeeper said with a long face. Wu. How could he let a guest stay in another inn? Wouldn't that be sending money to others? How could he be so foolish? Hehe. Long live understanding. Feng De chuckled. Then Lung Ruoxua and the rest closed the door and ignored the matter. The next day, when Yen Tao came to the door, he heard the miserable scream. The voice was familiar, but he ignored it. Instead, he went to Lung Xiaoyu and asked her for advice. That afternoon, Yen Kuan came to visit Lung Ruoxua and the others. Sitting on a chair in the living room, Yen Kuan felt a little nervous when he was faced with the probing gazes of the crowd. The young woman sitting opposite him was especially nervous. He was so nervous that he broke out in a cold sweat. Needless to say, that woman was Lung Ruoxua. This was his first time meeting Lung Ruoxua. Damn it, what was going on? Although he didn't dare to say that he was knowledgeable, there was no need for him to be so nervous and uneasy about a little girl. This was really too strange. May I know why City Lord Yan has come to visit? Lung Ruoxua asked knowingly. A few days ago, that unfilial son of mine committed a mistake. As his father, I am willing to compensate him. Therefore, I am willing to give Yanbei City to all of you. Yan Kuan carefully thought of his words, and then said, City Lord Yan, I really don't care about such a small city. In fact, I'm interested in the Nightmare Forest and want to make it my territory. However, the cities around it are the main roads into the forest, so I have to control them. Lung Ruoxua spoke the truth. Since Yan Kuan had already made his choice, there was no need for her to hide her purpose. After all, she intended to take Yan Kuan in for her own use. After hearing Lung Ruoxia's words, Yan Kun's eyes flickered. He did not reply immediately, but seemed to be deep in thought. Miss Lung, are you planning to take over the cities around the forest for your own use? Yan Kuan asked after a while. Yes, I am. Lung Ruoxua nodded. Miss Lung, the Nightmare Forest is not a suitable place to be a territory. Otherwise, it would have been occupied by others long ago. Yan Kuan couldn't help but remind her and secretly thought, this young lady has a big appetite. He actually wanted to make that forest his territory. In fact, in the past millions of years, it was not that no one had ever tried to take that forest, but they had never succeeded. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.